Shall we begin? Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
Welcome to the show. Jayme, start the video. The one that says start the show with the video. Sorry, guys. Give us a second. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show. I was waiting for the video. We're going to introduce. Got a great panel. We're picking up. Yep.
Where is the video? Oh,
Jayme, look at the file. I'll play it.
There is nothing in the file.
Yes, it is. You got to look at the file. Here, I'll play it.
The file is empty.
No, you're looking at the wrong file. I got it, guys. Give me 2 seconds. Way to go. Way to start off the show. You know, it's good that I can run the thing from the StreamYard myself. Here we go. Let's get this rolling.
I think I got it here.
I got it. It's too late. Stop. Let's talk about Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione's story is a potent mix of personal tragedy, social frustration, and the fallout of systemic injustice in the American healthcare system. His rise as a cultural phenomenon reveals a deep vein of discontent with the state of corporate power, economic inequality, and a health system that often prioritizes profits over people's well-being. On the surface, Mangione is an accused murderer linked to the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, yet his story strikes a chord with many because of what he symbolizes, a figure who challenges the status quo of a rigged system that harms ordinary people in the name of corporate greed. This paradox between his alleged crime and the lionization he has received highlights the frustrations many Americans feel about the healthcare system's failure, particularly in the wake of the opioid crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. Mangione's story taps into a broader sense of collective rage over the predatory practices of the healthcare industry. In the U.S., where access to healthcare is tied to employment and where insurance companies often deny claims for life-saving treatments, millions of Americans are left at the mercy of corporate entities whose primary goal is profit. CEOs like Brian Thompson, who embody the upper echelons of this system, become easy targets of public fury. Mangione's manifesto, Deny, Defend, Depose, reflect the strategies these corporations employ: deny people health care, defend their profits at all costs, and depose any threat to their dominance. For many people, Thompson and other CEOs represent everything wrong with the system: obscene salaries, minimal taxes, and policies that prioritize corporate profits over human lives. This resentment has fueled populist movements on both the left and the right as individuals and communities struggle to make sense of a world where economic inequality continues to widen and the healthcare system exacerbates that divide. What's particularly striking about Mangione's rise as a folk hero is that he is perceived as standing up against this system. While his alleged actions were violent, the emotional backdrop is a narrative that resonates with people who feel betrayed by this system. He's seen as a symbol of resistance, albeit in a tragic and destructive form. This is not unlike the way figures such as Robin Hood are mythologized, not necessarily as morally righteous, but as figures who fight against the corrupt system on behalf of the disenfranchised. With that being said, I have just one question for you. If in fact Luigi Mangione pulled the trigger on that day, in your mind, is he a hero or a villain? I'd like to hear from you. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you so much. I am Craig Pasta Jardula. This is Pasta to Go. Kind of like messed up with a little truth wire. We're probably going to have a little homeless left following. Oh, we got all these symbols going. But I brought on an awesome panel. We're going to do kind of like a union of the unwanted. Not that big, but like a small one where we have a big panel, multiple guests, because we got to get to the answers, get some answers for what's been going on with Luigi Mangione. I know that some people find this case boring, just too consuming of the majority of our media. Some people think it's a distraction, that we're not talking about certain things. I know that there's not been a lot of kind of coverage from the mainstream media what happens in Syria, and what we hear about Syria has been kind of a little fugazi. At least CNN had to admit that what we covered last week on the Homeless Left show about the reporter, whatever her name is, who's been caught doing fugazi things from time to time. They had to admit that prisoner that they acted to discover, like they went in there like, oh my God, we found a prisoner. I couldn't believe they did this. I mean, that's how stupid they think you are, ladies and gentlemen. We understand there's not a lot of coverage being shown about that. And there's a bigger picture to that, right? the greater Israeli project, maybe the Zionist project, what Turkey's going to do. Maybe it's about the pipeline. There's no coverage of that. And a lot of people think that they're using Mangione to distract you from those problems over there. However, I see this Luigi Mangione story as something big, right? We're one of the only developed nations that doesn't have a healthcare system, a universal healthcare system, that is. And that might be a problem. There's problems in itself for a universal healthcare system. And we'll kind of unpack all of that, because after the age of COVID, we understood that a state-run healthcare system might not be the best way to go. However, so many people in this system fall through the cracks. So many people die every year because they're either undercoveraged or the coverage, they have no coverage at all. And that's a serious problem. I've had my own personal story recently. I've been home here in Florida dealing with my mother. In fact, after the show, I'm going to go visit my mother in a rehab. She had a stroke. And the complications that I went through with the healthcare industry, with her coverage, we'll get into that later on in the show. That's the second part. But I played my video that I've been sharing out there that's been censored on Twitter, because the censorship on Twitter is ridiculous. Right now, everybody thinks that Elon's, oh my God, freedom of speech guy, there, he saved speech. Bullstein. We still don't understand how they're operating, how they're lifting certain voices up, and how they're kind of suppressing some other voices. Listen, people on the panel, we're going to bring you in 2 seconds. If you don't have the greatest sound, if you don't have the greatest look, don't worry. We'll be able to hear your voice and get your opinions out there. But this is important. The video I played in the beginning, I said hero or villain. I think there's another question that has to come into play. The question is hero, villain, or possibly is this a psy-op, psychological operation, to distract or move the people in a certain way? I would like to dive into that question. So this panel I have today is kind of catered somewhat to that. Two of the guests I consider to have their eye on the prize. They understand what the ruling class is doing behind closed doors. So let's get started. Let's get rolling. Thank you so much for joining us. I can see the numbers are going up on Twitter. Guys, the YouTube, they don't even share our stuff. They don't even hit the bell. It's awful. Ever since we did the Vladimir Putin interview with Tucker Carlson, and we broke that down, they took the live stream down twice in the middle of the show. And ever since then, almost all my videos get demonetized. There still is some monetization over there as far as super chats. So if you got a few bucks, you want to help with the super chats, please do so, because I'm going to need to raise money to go cover Luigi Mangione's case, because that's what I is hearing, because that's what I intend to do. So let's get the ball rolling. It's Saturday, guys. Welcome. Thank you so much. For some of you on the West Coast, it's 9:30 in the morning. Grab yourself a nice Irish coffee and get yourself set. Just a little Bailey's, more Irish whiskey. That makes it a nice Irish coffee. If you're on the East Coast, where I'm at, Florida, New York, wherever you're at, get yourself a nice sandwich for lunch. It's lunchtime. Sit back, relax. Let's have a great conversation. Let me introduce my panel. Ladies and gentlemen, starting first, he is one of my co-hosts, because we do collaborations all the time. We do our Thursday show. The other day was a shorter show. I think it was only 6 hours. My good friend, ladies and gentlemen, from the homeless left, Matt Weinglass is here.
Hi, Craig. Great seeing you this morning on this Saturday. LA Coast time. We're at 9:30, just like you said. So we're good to be up and doing this coverage with you. And yeah, love doing the show with you every week. And yeah, taking time with each story. We got to do that. You know, we don't want to skip over stuff. So let's dive into this one. And I'm very excited about the panel today.
I don't know if you saw the tweet, but I shared a clip from our show. Johnny Tsunami from the Convo Couch, who did some work with Kim Iverson. Now he's doing his own thing. He actually has a consulting company. He clipped out a little piece of me telling my personal story that we told on your show. And we've had some interesting conversations, because you thought it's kind of been somewhat of a possible psy-op, but maybe it's possible you want it to be real. And that's a whole nother discussion in itself. To me, watching the right wing right now, the populist right, at least I don't want to, I hate to use the team sports mentality, but we have to. All the Steve Bannonites, the Steve Crowders, they're really desperately trying to make this a right versus left situation. And the thing that drives me crazy is that they shame people for lifting up Luigi or praising Luigi, yet they were praising Daniel Penny, the guy who choked out William Neely on the subway for 6 minutes in a chokehold. Whole nother story in itself. But it's interesting to hear what you're going to say today and the panel what they're going to say. So welcome to the show, brother.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you adjusted the question, hero, villain, or psy-op. It's you can't really answer the question without all three of those on the table. It's very important that we look at all of the options, and we have to do that with anything that breaks. Anytime we wake up, we look on Twitter, we got a new thing in our face. We have to keep all the options open. We don't want to get distracted with just one or two options. So I'm glad that all three are on the table today for today's discussion.
Okay, thank you so much. And the next person, I call her the conspiracy theory mom, because she's got a lot of receipts. She's kept her eyes on the prize when it comes to a lot of information out there, and a lot of her stuff is been great. Listening to a lot of her stuff, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, the conspiracy mom, Amber King.
Good morning. I'm with you on the early morning, Matt. So
awesome.
Glad to be on here. I've got, I think, a lot of interesting twists and turns to bring to this conversation. I used to work in healthcare, so I'm fairly versed in a lot of, I think, the key points, and actually a lot of this pasta is bringing me back to our time in Vegas. So there'll be some interesting conversations, I think, coming up.
When we had a lot of cheese and wine, and you started this whole cluster FUCK by throwing out Cocaine Bear, then Steve showed it on the morning show, and the next thing you know, we're all caught in this quagmire of Cocaine Bear. I still blame you for that, Amber, and you're going to take the brunt of that. But we did have a great time in Vegas, and it was awesome to see you. It's always awesome to see you. I got to get out to the West Coast when I can. Let's just you're going to be a very important part of this whole conversation, because I want to hear what you have to say, because it's not, is this just a psyop? And don't answer it yet. Hold on your thoughts. But how does the ruling class benefit from this type of psyop? We'll get to you in a second. Let me bring in my other truther. Well, I can't even say this guy is a truther. He's all over the place too as well. I had one of an amazing time working with this guy for a year on the morning show. I mean, he held it down. He is AM Wake Up. I love him. I love his dog Gomez, but more than anything, I love his opinions, what he's got to say, even when he's being an asshole, and he's an asshole often, but he's my asshole. So don't forget about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Poikonen's here.
Good morning. Yeah. How's it going, everybody?
How's it going? Don't you notice we did the orange to match your hat and your jacket and your chair, bro?
Well done. Well done.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. It's a windy, cold, rainy day here on the California coast, and like it should be. Like it should.
Look at this. I don't know if you can see that. You can at least see the kind of color it is out there, right? Like it's. I know it's blurry, but you can see how sunny, how blue the water is. It's gorgeous out here, Steve.
Yeah.
Enjoy that weather.
Yeah. No.
All right.
I gotta deal with a dog that's afraid to stand outside in the rain.
Let's bring in Gomez. I miss Gomez. I got 3 cats here, and they're taking advantage of me. It's ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, our last guest, I met her at the Libertarian Convention. I saw her again then at the third-party debate. She does amazing work when it comes to exposing some of the corporate entities with what they're doing behind the scenes. Her video was shared with me. Amber actually shared her video with me. I'm like, Tiffany, she amazing work on researching what Luigi's all about, a little bit of his history, why he might have done what he done. Ladies and gentlemen, Tiffany Cianci joins the show. How you doing?
Oh, sorry, thanks. I'm having a rough time this morning.
Oh, my Lord.
I'm having a really rough time this morning.
I'm going to assume you don't normally sound like that.
No, I don't. I'm on the last 2 days of a drive that grants Christmas wishes to kids, and I haven't slept in like 2 weeks. So,
are you a deathcore metal
the
singer?
room I'm in right now.
Oh.
Literally, like, just gifts everywhere. I'm in a storage room. We have 24 families to deliver to today, and I'm taking a minute out for you guys.
All right, so here's what we're going to do then. Since you have this
warm
voice,
up in a minute.
Yeah. What we're going to do is we're going to let you speak first and then let you go, because this voice, I don't want to drain this voice, but I just want to get your
Don't do that. It'll get better in a minute. You go first. You go first. It'll warm up in a minute.
It will get better? You sure?
It will.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's start off with the first question then. Hero or villain? You did a lot of information. You've done a lot of videos. You got a TikTok video out there, Tiffany, and you talked about Luigi and some of his history. I believe that the term was called utilitarianism, which is what it's that doing what's better for the greater good, right? Utilitarianism, which is a way sometimes that governments will justify wars or invasions or regime change. But in this particular situation, it was the thought process that since he was studying utilitarianism, he had taken out Brian Thompson, the CEO. Once again, this is alleged, ladies and gentlemen. Luigi, it's alleged. But the reason why he would take them out, what are your thoughts on why he would do this? What does he hope to achieve if he did, in fact, did this? And is he a hero or a villain, Tiffany?
So I want to be really careful. Governments might try to use utilitarianism to justify war, but generally it's nationalism or national interests. For Luigi Mangione, the way that he's thinking online, at least when you look at the way he's advanced his thought processes, he's looking philosophically at the difference between
Is everybody else there? Everybody's there? Yeah, we're
Yeah.
having let's all right.
the outcome or the benefits that were created by that
You're
murder
frozen, Tiffany.
was
Oh, there
better
you
for
go.
the greatest number.
Okay, you were frozen. We missed
So
you.
it really comes down to what was that?
You got frozen. We missed half of what you said. Let's
Oh,
put you to the
perfect.
side. Let's put you to the side for a second till we figure this out. Amber, you jump on in. You give your opinion. Hero, villain, or psyop? Get going.
I'm gonna go with a little of all three.
Okay, explain why.
Picking middle of the road. So I do definitely see the kind of angle toward him being that, rich kid about to inherit a shit ton of wealth, magically gonna be taken out, so he's not able to be receiving any of his inheritance. I also think in the family dynamic, I think there's some mafia involvement, tying back to the Pelosi's, tying back to healthcare in general, especially the state of it and what's about to happen. I shared a link earlier, and George Webb actually did some fantastic reporting that I've been kind of following along the lines of that. He's tied into the Casa Nostra family, which has been backing Pelosi, has ties to the five families, Lucky Luciano. It really is kind of going back. And I saw a headline this morning that Pelosi made $28 million on a hotel that's never turned a profit during COVID because of federal funding. So you've got a lot of different ties. It really brings in a whole new level. They're saying there's so many different similarities between like the gun used, weather, the angle, you run the scenarios through some predictive assistance, and it's almost dead on with mob killing.
Okay, let's tackle the killing. I'm going to tell you this right now, that Luigi Mangione is definitely not the mob type, right? The mob is completely different than it was back in the days. Trying to connect Luigi Mangione to Lucky Luciano, I mean, that's just a stretch. That's a bridge way too far. This is 2024. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's ridiculous. So I don't understand this whole mob ties of using Luigi Mangione to go and try to clip Brian Thompson for whatever reason. Steve, I want you to jump in here and get some.
I think it's a setup, and he was the fall guy.
You think that he was framed?
I think it's a setup by his family.
Okay, but then why tie him to Luigi Mangione being the mob? You know what I'm saying?
Through his family has been running that area for the Casa Nostra for 100 years.
Luigi Mangione's family for the Cosa
Yes.
Nostra. I think that George Webb, and I love George Webb's work, I think he watches too many movies. I really do, because it's the mob is not what it used to be. It used to have a lot of political power. This is years and years ago. You know what I'm saying?
put it this way, Mangione's family and the Pelosi family have very close ties. And they've had additional murders and additional cases in Sicily through the Mangione family and Palermo, and they're pretty closely related. You can't really deny that when you start looking at the makeup of not only CEOs, shareholders of all healthcare, and we're talking pharmaceutical to managed care to government. There's so many direct connections, and I know that from working in healthcare.
Yeah.
Seeing family names, you start seeing.
But you'd have to agree that it's a little bit different as far as like what Cosa Nostra used to be was like a type of,
Yeah. Well, we
yeah.
all think of it, Godfather style. Yeah, it's not like that anymore. But he was about to inherit a shit ton of money, and we've got all this other shit about to happen at the federal government level in all these different OxyContin cases and all the drugstore chains getting taken down. Like there's a big fucking shakeup happening. You can't deny that. And when you start looking at what's about to happen, there's this radical shift. And so his grandfather was very much that Godfather kind of guy. And I think it sounds from what I've been able to tell, and be it 70 working 70 hours a week, he's got that rich kid, poor kid, dilemma happening. He is a very philosophical person. There's a lot of kind of that. I've met a lot of those kind of hero, rich kid, martyr type people. And so he wasn't playing along with it, and he was pissed off about it and felt actually probably had some ethics. So in that terms, then he becomes, the folk hero, martyr for a lot of people fighting for healthcare. And at the same time, then you spin it around and you've got, Eric Adams perp walking him across the bridge. I mean, it's just like, it's a level too far. You've got the same lawyer as P. Diddy, the spouse of the P. Diddy lawyer representing him. I mean, it's just a little weird.
Steve, jump in there.
So that then turns into the psy-op show and what's happening on mainstream media to try and, paint him as a terrorist.
Yeah. So a handful of different objectives could potentially be achieved through this. One of them being what people are very emphatically, very emotionally arguing for, which is, government mandated, government run healthcare. Which is, while I disagree with the existing sick care for profit, effectively like a open air lab for pharmaceutical companies to conduct experiments for profit model that we currently live in, the idea of government run healthcare sounds like absolute nightmare fuel to me. So, but that's how it's going to be framed. You're only going to see the argument from the left going forward regarding this, another rehashing of that we need quote unquote universal health care, where there are zero people in government period that I would trust with that responsibility. Not that I trust healthcare CEOs with that responsibility, but there are zero people in government that I would trust for that. So you can kind of see it frame up in a false binary again. I do think that, mob connections are interesting. Yes, of course, there's been an evolution in the way that organized crime has moved over the last 50, 75, 100 years. Usually organized crime is ahead of the curve of that evolution, and it's the people who aren't involved in either active organized crime or trying to prevent the success of that active organized crime that are the last people to find out about the evolution. So if you're not in on the ground floor, and your only frame of reference is The Sopranos or Goodfellas or something like that, it's going to look entirely different. It's going to be easily dismissible, and most people are going to shrug it off. And I would imagine it's supposed to look like that.
I want to get an understanding before you go on with the conversation about So you're saying that this could be a psyop to get us to push towards universal health care?
It's gonna reignite that conversation. It's been almost a decade, Pasta.
You think Big Pharma wants that, or the healthcare industry wants that, or?
Yeah, I think as we move into full technocracy, what makes most sense is for large corporations to vie for corporate control of the vast majority of products that are going to be disseminated via various states. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they're terrified of losing their power that they have right now, which is what's happening.
Yeah.
And they're fucking running scared. Seriously running scared. And so you've got a big shakeup, you've got a big change, DOJ, lawsuits coming. It's tied into all the opioid crisis and all the Sackler family law. There's just lawsuit after lawsuit piling up.
Yeah, but I mean, all right. Well, let me play devil's advocate, and then Tiffany, did you want to say something? You're kind of frozen again, but you can jump in at any time. Okay, Matt, if you want to say something too as well, you guys can jump in at any time. All right, listen. Let me play devil's advocate to what Steve and Amber are saying, because listen, the reason why I wanted to have you both on the show more than anything is, I wanted Tiffany to obviously lay some of the history there and what's going on behind the scenes, as she's done a lot of digging into Luigi's background. But I wanted Steve and Amber to explain how it possibly could be a psyop, right? And I have paid attention to some of George Webb's work. But let me say this much. If it is a psyop of sorts to get us to universal health care, then why wouldn't they just make a regular push and I know when they poll people, when they question people about universal health care, people will say, 70% of the people say they want a healthcare system from the state. Every single, industrialized nation has one. Why would they have to go about getting it this way? And if they reignite that conversation, wouldn't we be able to talk about the things that are concerning in a universal healthcare situation?
Craig, I'd like to jump in on this. Let's look at the psyop and really try to understand what the purpose would be if it is a psyop. The purpose is not going to be to change the system that we have now. That we look at it as a broken system. They don't. They look at it as a very functioning system for them. The purpose of a psyop in this case would be to keep the system functioning as is. So one of the things we can see right away is that right and left going at each other. Even just asking the question, hero or villain, you started the show talking about the right-wing commentary on this right now, just really vilifying people in the street right now, people putting up signs with the other CEOs, on these signposts and saying we have to take them down now. The people in the street are the villains. That's how it works. You pit people against each other and you keep a system running as is. That's what the psyop operation would be if it is that. And I have seen a lot of red flags.
Unless you're in the middle of a great reset, Matt. Unless you're in the middle of a great reset. Unless you're trying to transform all of these systems and institutions at the same time. Unless you've implemented an unelected bureaucracy called Doge in order to usher in the era of AI governance, unless you're trying to move people away from all existing traditional models of how we've done this into a brand new technocratic futuristic model of how to do things. And then it's okay to expose the system, lay it bare, and show people what the flaws are. That's exactly what 4 years of Joe Biden was. We're going to show you that even if you think you vote, we're still going to give you a demented, kid-sniffing weirdo and call him the president. And then we're going to spend the next 4 years demonstrating in full view in front of everyone that this person, figurehead, is a puppet, doesn't make any of their own decisions. And so why would you keep something that everyone recognizes as a broken model for any longer than you had to if you could just give them the exact same thing with a new face, which is what universal healthcare done by the exact same oligarchs, pharma companies, and CEOs is going to be. It's going to be the exact same thing. It's just going to come out of your ass on your taxes instead of out of the front end on a copay. Go ahead, Pasta. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think what you're saying is that this is the same thing that Catherine Austin Fitz talks about with getting the Republicans on the grid as far as, we got our we have to get everybody on a digital ID because we have to stop immigrants from voting and we have to secure the border. And this is the same thing. Let's get into this new healthcare system. It's universal. No longer are you going to have to suffer or worry about the insurance companies, but we get you in with a digital ID. Is that kind of what you're saying? Or that's how they're implementing the technocratic way? Like, this
That's
is the
part of
perfect
it.
avenue they found to put everybody on the grid.
Go ahead, Amber. But yeah, I mean, it's a component. Yes.
Yeah, and they need all of these things to happen at the same time. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And so that's why they're pushing so hard on this. When you've got a period of radical change coming and they know that their power structure is in jeopardy, they're going to push at all angles. They need digital ID. Sure, put RFK in there. We're going to give you, some other scamdemic coming next. 10 years ago, 95% of the people wanted vaccines everywhere, and now that's dropped to 40%. So they're losing they're losing ground. They're in panic mode. The first round was the test. Now we're going real. Mangione was also involved in cybersecurity and hackathons and weird shit at Penn State. We all know weird shit comes out of Penn State. Let's be honest here. Otherwise Biden wouldn't have had an office full of classified documents there.
I just don't think they're scared to death at all. I think that's an act.
They're
I think
not.
this idea of parading Luigi out there in the orange jumpsuit.
$50,000 worth of tactical gear around him. Like, come on.
I think they're going through this charade of being afraid. I think the only time they will actually be truly afraid is when we align. We talk about this all the time on the show with every other topic. You got to align a real populist move in the street. And you can't have that if the left and right are at each other's throats right now, calling each other the enemy. It's just, I mean, you could see this model every single time. We saw it with Black Lives Matter. It's insane. The fact that, like, look, they want
right wing wasn't into Black Lives Matter.
No, I'm saying, look at that as a blueprint for what this is. It's like we're gonna have some change. Finally, George Floyd. Finally, we can see the police brutality. We're gonna do something about it. Look, the whole world's in the street. You look, all the different countries had people in the street for George Floyd. Something's happening. Nothing happened except we got more money for police, more money for security purposes. So we were just pushing everything the exact opposite way that people thought. Just because you put one cop in jail for one thing on camera, that's it. And so it's like, and at the end of the day, you're still having a left and right saying F you to the other side. You're the problem. How dare you? And you move on. You keep things the way they are with more money for the thing that you want. And so it's the opposite conclusion versus what in the moment we get emotionally excited, right? We're emotionally excited when we see this, delay, deny, defend on all these different, signs right now. And we're getting excited. Something's happening. But at the end of the day, it's not. It's going to be this. It's going to be exactly the model we're in right now. But we're going to think that something happened because one CEO got taken out. But that's all it is. And meanwhile, you got this whole cover up with Nancy Pelosi that we started getting into. That maybe there was a purpose why Brian Thompson had to be taken out. Maybe there's a reason.
Networks.
So there's things we need to keep open as a possibility, but not to get caught up in the emotion of the moment when maybe nothing really is happening. That's my take right now.
Well, like I said, Black Lives Matter to me is not a great example because it was very tribal and it pit people against each other.
Well,
that's also a massive scam on like multiple different levels, including the whole impetus of it with the George Floyd thing. Like, if we're just looking at the marketing of it, it's what Matt was talking about. But if you look into what even that limited hangout documentary, Follow Minneapolis, but more specifically, the work that Miriam Hanine has done on the George Floyd thing, you realize that it's much, much, much more than just, a freaking Soros back color revolution in the street. Like the actual event itself, pretty significant. But what that got you was the destabilization of every major city in the United States nonstop for years. It got you to the point to where over 30 major U.S. cities have stopped reporting crime stats. It got the destabilization of the country underway so effectively that people are going to be and have been begging for authoritarian strongmen to step in and get a hold of the situation. So that's what the objective recognized as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Making an example, right? Like I think that's what you do in these situations. You make an example of the people that went too far. I think that we're doing that right now. We're protecting a CEO. This is the argument on the right. We have to look at this. This is serious. They're getting half the country riled up about protecting the CEO that got killed and his poor old family. That we have to, like, that's not okay. And you charge this guy with terrorism. Let's talk about that part. How are we charging this guy as a terrorist? This is part of the divide. This is like, we teach people a lesson. You say, you don't do this. This is the special type of person. We have to protect him. He's providing healthcare for all these people. You might disagree with it. Well, go get another provider. Stop complaining and don't commit acts of terrorism, or you're going to end up like Luigi, they're going to be holding him to the death penalty for this. This is making an example. This is not pushing the case forward. And I don't think we're going to see a change in the healthcare system. They're just protecting it.
I would say the terrorism charges go a long way to support Amber's position on this. They do. That these people are absolutely shitting their pants on a lot of different levels over potentialities. If you're in insurance, you're in risk assessment, right?
Yep.
Isn't that one of the core components of the insurance game?
And you've got a lot of insider trading happen. You've got a lot of pending lawsuits in regards to the insider trading. Brian Thompson wasn't set to testify against Pelosi, but there could have been a very serious claim. Paul Pelosi invested $500,000 to, I think, $1.2 million in Palo Alto Networks that was investigating the cybersecurity of the United CEO. Yes. Basically they were insider trading, and they were covering it up with this supposed cyber hack. And so there was a lot of direct ties. It's a lot more insidious than it seems. And they've been using this shit to craft narrative, to craft personal and public opinion, to keep the war going. They want the money to keep rolling. They don't want this shit exposed. They don't want a major change at all. They've got to keep going with the plan and get it in place. And so
okay,
that's
let me jump in now. Thank you to Chris Leone for leaving the panel. We love you, Chris. We always loved you coming on AM Wake Up, Convo Couch, all 9 yards. And thank you for sending a personal shout out for my mother the other day. I really do appreciate that. Okay, so what I'm getting here from everybody here on the panel now, very black pillish, very nihilist kind of energy, right? Like, hold on, Steve, don't say no 1 second. I say no. How do we? Well, listen, the healthcare system as it is one of the most fucked up systems on the planet, right?
By nature.
I have a little video. I'm going to play it really quickly, and then you guys have to now, since we've examined the situation for what it is, and we understand that they might be using this to twist it for whatever reason, right? Moving it into getting more people on the grid, more control of the system. I mean, I understand the problems with the socialized medicine system, right? Especially what we experienced with Corey Morningstar in Canada, right? Like, if you don't get the shot, then you don't get your benefits. And that is the control of one's sovereignty, their own personal body sovereignty when it comes to a healthcare system could be taken away. And that could be a problem. So I'd like to play this video really quickly, and then we'll talk about, I don't think you have it. Yes, you do have it, Jayme. Let's play this video real quickly, and then let's talk about how we can move this in a positive direction. If in fact this is a psy-op, what conversations need to be had? Because I always have this kind of like libertarian mind about healthcare. Well, what if it was a stipend? What if it was money for people's own personal healthcare that they can choose? Maybe they want to go to a Chinese doctor. Maybe they want to go to an acupuncture. How do we fix that moving forward? Here's a quick video, and then you guys can jump in. I see you're licking at the chops. Where's Steve? He left. Good. I know what it's like, and it doesn't surprise me that those words were written on those bullets. It just makes me think of my own personal story that happened just right now. The majority of my time, Matt, was spent on the phone dealing and fighting with insurance companies. One of the last people I talked to, after talking to multiple people, getting different stories all the time, and no matter what story I got, claims were being denied to get my mom into acute therapy after her stroke. She's now in a subacute place because that's the only one they would approve, the only claim they would approve. You get a million different answers. It wasn't only just like, oh, we can't do this because we don't want to pay kind of thing where they're not talking about it. They claim negligence, right? Like you have an article that talks about this particular CEO, his company would have so many clerical errors. They had one of those with my mom. And because of that error, she had to stay in the hospital an extra 6 days. And when somebody has a stroke, the time that is most valuable, most important is right after that stroke. Making sure she's taking her blood thinners so she doesn't have a relapse, another stroke. But to repair the mind is to get her into therapy right away. But because of denial of a claim to start with, and then a clerical error after, my mom spent an extra 12 days in the hospital, 3 weeks, which she should have been in rehab maybe after the first week. And not only me do I have this story, just look at the responses on the Twitter handles and the people talking about this. Like, this is an issue we have in the United States, and it's not going away anytime soon. So I know what it's like, and it doesn't surprise me that those words were written on those bullets. Let's let our panel jump in. As far as my comment I made before, I get what you're saying. Listen, the system itself sucks, right? We have a sick care system, but in certain situations, we call it what, battlefield healthcare, right? If you get a bullet wound, our healthcare system's great. If there's an emergency, our system's great. If you need to get immediately into some therapy, right? The system would work. But the problem wasn't not the therapy itself, or why my mom had a stroke to begin with in the first place, right? We could talk about that till we're blue in the face. But the fact is that I couldn't get over the hurdles of the healthcare system. And literally my mom sat in the hospital bed for 3 weeks before I can get her out of there. So, there are people who are 200 million claims are denied every single year. I think 8 million people pay the brunt of that price with those claims being denied. How do we fix this moving forward? And what do we do? What do we do right now if this in fact is a psy-op to get us into a certain situation?
First of all, can I push back on your gunshot victim wounds? There were a lot of people that did not get treatment because of people taking horse dewormer. You remember that one? So there were a lot of, I'm just playing on that one, but you remember they said that the horse dewormer people were keeping
I know
victims out of the hospital. But that part of the system is pretty tight. Everything else you just said, Craig, there is a massive problem here. We don't really have any way to fix it as long as the corporatism that exists right now, the corruption of the corporations with the government. Steve mentioned earlier that the government-run healthcare system is also not a good system. And so neither of these are going to work as long as we have both of them working against us together. So it doesn't really matter if it's the corporations in front or the government in front. I agree with you 100%, Steve, on this idea that who are we going to trust to run this thing? So even if we can push back with what's happening now and people like Brian Thompson, who was the biggest culprit in denying people of their health care. Literally, they had 32% denial rate, 32%. That's like double the average of the biggest companies. I think it was 16% denial rate. They were at 30 at this United Health. They were at 32% denial rate. I don't know what we can do about that because, again, what Steve said, getting it to a government-run system is also going to be just as bad because they're in cahoots together. The corporatism that runs our country is running our healthcare system. I don't really have an answer to it. I just wanted to say it's worse than we think.
Let's see what they got to say. Jump on in, guys.
Yeah, I'd say it goes right on back to the mafia and new suit, different title, same fucking families everywhere you look at it. If you start looking at the insider trading that was going on and the stock buys and the profit being made in this, basically from the snap of COVID. I mean, look at that transformation of wealth that has happened. And then you're throwing a single mom in jail in Florida for saying those three words. What in the actual hell is going on? So now you've got, we're getting the lockdown.
She said you're
we
next.
Got the perp walk,
that's the thing, right? She said you're next.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what the FBI and the FBI flagged that call and handed it over to the Florida. Was it a sheriff? I think that took him in. Was it a police chief? I don't know if it was But please continue.
It's seriously fucked up in this country. I don't know. Yeah. I don't have any good answers on how to fix it, but I definitely know, it's not hard to see what's happening, unfortunately. And I think he's a fucking patsy. I think he's being set up in a bunch of different ways for a bunch of different reasons. And it'll never be on mainstream TV. And we'll probably get taken down like we always do on half the platforms. We try to put the truth out because people don't want to have this actual conversation. what is happening behind the scenes in all the denied claims, all the denied, people being murdered. This is murder care in America. This is CEO instructed murder care now. Let's be honest. And they don't want the gravy train to stop rolling, whether it's from Congress, whether it's, from lawsuits. They want to keep this rolling. And so they're buying and selling. And, this is going right back into that perfect profit circle. It's tying back into, having the means to control the lever on people's lives, on their finances. I mean, number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States. We pay the most. We have the worst outcomes of any industrialized nation. We pay the most for it. They're fucking filling these goddamn bills in Congress full of bullshit. Another 10 biolabs in there. They're pushing it forward on us at all levels. And again, on the back end, insider trading, collecting billions. They were all being indicted, and it's coming home to roost. And so they got freaked out. This fits the bill for a lot of different reasons. And they get to keep business as usual.
Mr. Poikonen?
Yeah, for as long as they can keep that business as usual going. But the healthcare industry is going to have to shift gears in some way, shape, or form because people can't afford to pay them anymore. Yeah, they just can't. I mean, the people who aren't middle class or upper middle class have been doing doctor visits by emergency room for decades, and that's just it's so, medical debt and medical malpractice are, out of freaking hand. So once you've successfully broken the population, then you can give them a solution. And that solution is just going to be, instead of the private-public partnership, here's the public-private partnership.
Yeah.
And that's the bait and switch. It's going to look less private-facing, more public-facing, while intelligence and governance and things like that go more private-facing, less public-facing. Yeah. And it's just, we're in this period of accelerated inversion right now. And there's no way around recognizing that unless you just want to bury your head in the sand.
I think that's an important point to bring out too, Steve, as well, that, okay, if the individual can no longer afford to pay for the healthcare that they went bankrupt for, let's create a universal system. We'll just use the American tax dollars across the board to pay out for those systems. And something, it's kind of crazy because the way the system works that I just learned is that if there is an insurance company that has deductibles and there's a facility that's taking somebody in, they have to go and collect the money for the insurance companies. If it's the Medicare system, they could just write it off and the state will pick it up. And so it is kind of like, I'm glad we're having this discussion because now I'm seeing more of how this could be twisted and turned.
Can I ask a question here, guys? This, in theory, this sounds like something that makes sense, that they want to make this transition and this would be opportunity to do it. Why wouldn't they have just done this 4 years ago with COVID? They had everything in place to do this. They had this opportunity to say, we got to help people, this deadly disease. Let's get everybody let's switch the system over so everybody can have treatment and have it all be. Why wait till now? And because they're waiting till now, what needed to change to make it viable for it to happen now and not then? So I need to know what is the difference of 4 years ago to now, that now it makes sense to do this.
We have a health crisis.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that was a health crisis, right?
No, and it was a pandemic of a PCR test.
They created a health crisis. Most of the American people fell for it, and they would have been willing at that time to do this exact thing.
I don't think enough people did fall for it. That's the problem. That's why they couldn't use it then.
Yeah, they had to run the test.
Okay.
Live fire exercise.
Yeah, they had to run the test, and now that they have their data, and look how much technology has changed in the last 4 years.
Okay.
Now they've got mRNA and
acceptance of technology too. Yeah,
they want managed healthcare because it's track and trace healthcare. It's biometrics.
100%.
You've shrunk the population. You've made another huge set of the population very, very ill, let alone the natural trends of all the death and destruction Kissinger bullshit that they got in place. But now you've got boom, everybody's got cancer. Everybody's got autoimmune conditions. 1 in 3 children has a chronic health condition in the United States. Like it's bad.
You got to remember that the same people that have had multi-generational, multi-century plans are the exact same people that made the population an instant gratification culture incapable of thinking long-term, or even in 4 to 5 year spans, let alone decade by decade spans.
Yeah. I also have to add on to what Amber said too as well, that they made a smaller part of the population, meaning the 1%, even more rich with COVID-19 too as well. So, I mean, I think it's just a genius play by the ruling class now to, all right, so if the individuals can no longer afford to buy a house, they can no longer afford to buy groceries, how do we get our money? Because they're not thinking, how do we get the economy working again so people can pay the bills? It's like, let's use it collectively through taxes, and we'll use the tax money from the state to pay these hospital bills, because everybody's now on the system that's universal. It is kind of genius when you do think about it. I think the only way we
can turn around in 5 years and say, what the hell do you want, people? We gave it to you. What's wrong now?
Yeah. True. Which leads us to another discussion of like, what do we have to do moving forward as far as getting a system? Like, I agree that I think that taking care of yourself first and foremost is the most important thing, right? You used to say on AM Wake Up, make bullets, grow your own food. Eating as many healthy foods, being less dependent on the state is very important, but that's a hard thing for the majority of people to do, right? I mean, I know a lot of people who have looked at a lot of Derek Brose's work when they talk about it, and they're like, yeah, we tried that in the 60s and the 70s, and it didn't fucking work because the state is too powerful, and you can't just unplug from the system. You have to change the power mechanism to make this work.
You have to know what's coming at you.
On that, please, go ahead, Amber.
You got to know what's coming at you to be able to dodge and duck and weave. I mean, it's coming into that controlled police state, controlled healthcare state, the internet, another controlled, like every single space you're going to enter is going to be tracked, traced, recorded, surveilled, AI data mined. They've already let the genie out of the bag with that. And we're just being dumbed down into this, we're fucking batteries. Like back to the Great Reset. They literally just want us for batteries at this point. It's
useless eaters.
We're super, we're here to, some of us will be a little bit lovely to be able to, have a little bit more attention. You'll be able to pay to have your genetic modification for the children. So, we'll have a set of workers, we'll have a set of the military class. Well, you're being put in the box, but once you're on the dole, you're on the fucking dole.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't have a better, I wish I was more happy about it.
The funny thing is when people start asking me questions, I'm like, I don't know what to do, but I can tell you what not to fucking do at this point, right? Like, we understand it. Listen, the only way I think that we get to the bottom of this is I got to go talk to Luigi. So I'm going to try to get out to New York, try to get in there, try to see if he'll give me the exclusive, you know what I'm saying? Maybe my Italianness, and tell him that we're third cousins.
I was going to say, the part of my original, he's all three, and going back to the Casa Nostra and, President-elect Pelosi at some point in the in our future, or not Pelosi, but what's the Newsom, Newsom. He'll be the next up. They're picking and playing this game of politics, Hollywood, media, healthcare, pork bellies, like you name it. They've got the, when you have the rig on the game, you know how to play the fucking game,
Yeah.
And the five families going back to, Knights of Templar, they know how to play the game. We're not in that game, unfortunately. We get to bitch about it and expose it and, keep calling them out for their bullshit, get in the streets, get on a farm, all those different things. But we're not playing that game.
What if this was an act by himself? There's a lot of things that kind of like,
I don't
Steve,
think
you
it
were
can
big on
be.
telling people, hey, get a 3D printer, right? It's like, like people, to me, that and the monopoly money, it's like almost like he was trying to say something. Can you guys think of a positive a positive maybe situation that can come out of this whole Luigi thing?
Look, listen, Craig,
I don't
said on
know.
our show, I am hoping that this is legit. I hope he's legit. I really do. And we're going to find out more in the weeks to come. But there's so many questions that if you do get a chance to talk to him, I mean, there's so many questions. Like, why would you allow this McDonald's thing to happen? What is wrong?
It's almost like he wanted to get caught.
Then you walk. If you want to get caught, you walk right in. You say, "I'm the guy. I'm the mother effing guy. Here it is. This is what." And then you give that manifesto.
You're thinking wrong. Wait, he wanted to maintain his innocence so he can have a hearing, right? So therefore,
in
it's
the
just not cut and dry.
Talking about,
I mean, if he confesses to it, forget about it.
Okay.
I'm saying there are reasons why he could have wanted to get caught. I just want to know if you guys can see a positive outcome here with this whole situation.
I mean, the positive outcome for any of these situations is that people look at it, go, none of this makes sense. It's ridiculous on its face. I don't freaking believe it. I'm gonna go check out something else. That's the best positive you can really hope for, because you can't kill healthcare by kill a for-profit model of healthcare by killing one CEO. You can't do that. It's not going to happen. These people are designed to be replaceable. Most of them understand how replaceable they are. It's why they're so fragile in the first place. So it's Texas Slim says it all the freaking time. Change your consumption model. Better things start to happen for you. And that means everything. That means change what you put into your body. It means change what you put into your head. It means change what nourishes your spirit. I mean, all of that, all incorporating. And it's the more that we get away from, trying to participate in games that we're not allowed to play in the first place, the more we have the ability to actually create and build something. I can't stress this enough, dude. It's incumbent on everyone that's doing this to create the culture that we want to live in, not be forced to react to the culture that's been forced on us. We don't have to play these stupid freaking games. We don't.
Yeah.
But
Amber,
you
did
do
you
have
have
to
to-
keep yourself informed of what the games are being played. Or
Sure,
you don't
sure,
have to
yeah.
get wrapped in them, but you have to. I mean, that's why, I did my show is to try and focus on all this crazy shit that sounds like sci-fi, that sounds like conspiracy, that they're actually funneling a shit ton of money in to track, trace, and control us.
Yeah.
And if we can't navigate through that and see the bullshit, we're going on with blinders. I mean, you look at how big is the California public retiree pension system. They're, it's the largest pension fund in the country. How old is a mob tactic of robbing a fucking pension fund for personal wealth? Like, that's as old as it gets, and that's kind of where this ties back to. They've been robbing and stealing, and they started having antitrust probes. They started having the insider trading. Now you've got a magical security, breach, and I mean, it's all too convenient for this to just be a one-off.
Not only that, but I mean, the $24 billion that Newsom's taken to fight homelessness in California that nobody can account for. And he's,
part of it.
Yeah.
Same thing.
That guy steals everything. The controlled burns that never happened. He took the money for that. Where did it go?
This is the same fucking family we're talking about, though.
Yeah, he's Pelosi's nephew.
He's back to the Costa Nostra.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, and
I mean, how many times did I call freaking Nancy Pelosi a mafia princess sitting next to you, Pasta? I mean, this is like old information about her family and where their background was and what they're about.
Yeah, the Pritzkers, everything's tied. I mean, you could tie that stuff to Kennedy. You can tie that to the mob. You can tie that to the state of Israel, for crying out loud. It's the same people.
Yes, because
Okay.
when you're talking about Lucky Luciano, you're talking about the American Crime Syndicate, which is a merger of the Sicilian Mafia and the freaking Jewish Mafia.
Yeah. Meyer
So,
Lansky.
and rumor are, if you get a chance to talk to him, I hear he speaks fluent Italian. You know, but you've also got to look at, you've got super rich kid with 5 pins in his back, has a massive fucking surgery, and then 6 months later is hiking mountains.
Mhm.
You know, in Bali.
Yeah, as
He was-
one
he was
does, Amber,
perfect. And if
as
he
you
had-
do.
Yeah, and if he had any sense of moral compass and started bitching about anything, the family's gonna take you out, man. You're the patsy.
Yeah. But what about the mindset that, okay, Steve, we talk about this all the time. Remember, we talk about this all the time. The people who are behind the fourth industrial revolution, the Great Reset, and I'm playing devil's advocate, right? At the end of the day, you know, I agree with Matt that we got to keep our minds open about everything. It could be anything, right? At what this point is. But we have a small group of people that always are protected, that never have to be accountable for everything. And here's one person making them accountable. I mean, you did tweet, Steve, that now the CEOs are, with all this police present out there, maybe the CEOs can now put their pictures back up on their LinkedIn that they had taken down. I mean, we did see an immediate about face when it came to the Blue Cross Blue Shield policy on not paying for the anesthesia.
They had also spent
on that day,
36 hours getting mercilessly dragged ahead of that event too. Like the entire planet was shitting on them for a solid day and a half before Brian Thompson got clipped. As a, you know, so I mean, yes, that could have helped nudge them in a direction, but you know, there is such a thing as public pressure to varying degrees. You know,
So-
and what that usually means is people are going to stop, corporations or governments are going to stop saying it out loud. They're just going to find ways to sneak it into stuff. That's what public pressure does at this point, you know.
I'm just things to keep in mind. What happens with the next round of appointments? What happens with the United Healthcare antitrust suit that's going forward in March? You know, we've got some shakeups happening, and so it's a time. Anytime there's a shakeup, you've got a chance to blame a shit ton of people. You've got a chance to reform a shit ton of people.
And
We saw that with
consolidate.
this less spending bill. You know, they tried to push as much as they could into that space, and so you've got shifting power dynamics, and so you've got a lot of opportunity. I think we're just going to be under 10 fucking a day for the next at least 6 months, at least, if not the next 60 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Matt, you got anything to add to that, buddy? I'm so sorry I cut you off before.
No, it's I'm yeah, I'm glad that we're keeping an open mind about this. That's the main thing for me right now, because we don't look, I know, you know, you guys, Steve, Amber, and Craig, all of you guys have been covering this stuff a lot longer. You know, obviously Homeless Left, we're very new to the game on this, but it's like, it's easy to see these patterns. It's easy to predict where we're going based on the past. We have to keep our, you know, the historical context is very important in all these situations. But yeah, at this point, I want to just keep an open mind and keep telling our viewers and our listeners that they need to not jump to conclusions so quickly. That's my take. And we just need to keep looking at stuff with this guy, Luigi, and with what's happening moving forward. I hope we get to this trial. I hope they don't just, you know, parade him around and then we don't ever hear from him again. That would suck. That's something so I want to hear what he has to say. I hope, Craig, you can have a chance to engage with him as well.
That's going to be a tough one, but let's play this.
I think we should go to Sicily instead. I'm just saying. I think
let's
we'd
play
have
this
a lot better
Chomsky
luck.
video. Not going to Sicily. Let's play this Chomsky video, and I want to get your opinions about the mentality behind this, charging him as a terrorist.
Yeah,
because that's something that's to be said. Listen, I think the best thing that can come of that, you know, this is when a lot of people were being labeled as domestic terrorists, and how the left was praising it. The Democrats were, oh, this is good. They should be. They try to overturn the government. And we're like,
yes,
yo, wait 1 second. If they do it to these people, they're going to eventually do it to you. You saw what they did with the Uhuru people. They also, I think it was some. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Amber. Was it a lady protesting against an abortion clinic? I think, or she was pro-choice or something, and she got hit with some terrorist charge. I can't remember the other one,
Yeah.
but it seems like they're going to use this for just the plebs across the board, and it's a slippery slope. And you always see one size in the team sports mentality praise it against the other side. Let's play the Chomsky clip we have, Jayme. We'll get that rolling, guys. Thank you so much. All the links are down below on how you can help out the show. All right, so you don't have the dude. Look, I sent you the whatchamacallit. I sent you the you're on the wrong file. You're on the wrong doc. I'll get it. Amber sent me this earlier. Let's talk a little bit about the whole
I'm sorry to put
charging
you
him
in
as a terrorist. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday. Got a lot of good people here, and this is the clip.
When we use the term terror, we have to recognize that, like most terms of political discourse, has two meanings. There's a literal meaning, and there's the doctrinal meaning. Now, in the literal meaning, terror is what's described in U.S. Code of Laws. It's the threat or use of violence to intimidate, typically against civilians, to intimidate populations for political, ideological, and other ends. Well, nobody can use that definition, because if you use that definition, it follows instantly that the United States is a leading terrorist state, that Britain is another leading terrorist state, and so on. So the literal definition, the one that's in the US Code of Laws, is unusable. Then we go to the doctrinal definition, the one that's used in the media and scholarship and so on. That's the same as the official definition, but with a condition, qualification. It only applies to what they do to us, not what we do to them. Okay, that's the doctrinal meaning. I'll now use it in the doctrinal sense, though that's totally dishonest, of course. As to what to do about the threat of terror in the doctrinal sense, meaning the terror by them against us, there are a lot of things to do. One thing is to not increase the threat. That's a simple step. Don't act in order to increase the threat. Now, the US consistently, and Britain, act in order to increase the threat of terror. Not because they want terror, but because it's just not a high priority. So take the invasion of Iraq. As I mentioned, that was undertaken with the expectation, since amply confirmed, that it would increase the threat of terror. They expected it. It happened. Well, one of the ways not to increase the threat of terror is not to take steps like that that'll increase it. Another, and just about unanimity on this in the among specialists and intelligence agencies. Second step is to try to ask what its reasons are. What are the causes of it? And where the causes are grievances that are legitimate grievances, something should be done about those grievances, quite apart from the threat of terror. Well, I'm quite happy to accept the definition of terrorism that the official definition that one finds in the US Code and in Army manuals. In fact, for 20 years, I've been writing about international terrorism, and I constantly use that definition. I think it's the right definition. The terrorism is defined officially as the, paraphrase, as the calculated use of violence, typically against civilians, for the purpose of intimidation and coercion to attain political, religious, ideological, or other ends. That's terrorism. By that, and that's a good definition. I agree with it. There are terrorist states. There are non-state terrorist actors, and in fact, the State Department has a list of terrorist states. Well, if we apply that definition, definition can't really be applied, and therefore it's not used. So there's that's the literal definition. The reason it can't be applied is two reasons. One is it's a virtual paraphrase of official U.S. doctrine, which is called counterinsurgency or low-intensity conflict. Mm-hmm. If you look at the same Army manuals, you find that's defined in approximately the same way. But that's official policy. Now, the second reason why it can't be applied is that if you do apply it, it very quickly turns out that the United States is a leading terrorist state. exactly as you'd expect of the most powerful state in the world. I mean, it's a great analytic error to describe terrorism as a weapon of the weak. Like most weapons, it's primarily a weapon of the strong and always has been.
Seems like the terrorism claims are the opposite side to the well, I should say I don't say the opposite side, but the parallel side that is used by the people saying hate speech, right? So they use hate speech to go in there, stomp more on your civil liberties. Same thing with terrorism. I remember arguing with our friend Laura Loomer at one point and telling her,
That's your friend, dog. That's your friend.
I'll take the blame for that. Once my friend, I said, why are you doing this? Why are you saying this stuff right here about people protesting out in the streets? You're pushing against the same thing you fought for freedom of speech, you being censored. You said you were Loomered. And she goes, no, this is different. This is terrorism. And I'm like, oh, there we go. I'm glad somebody got it out early there. But if you guys want to give your opinions on this, I'll let you go first, Amber, since you brought the video. What a slippery slope this is. And please give us a little insight on why you brought this video today.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was nice to see Chomsky when he still spoke coherently and
before he said put us all on an island.
When he was merely gatekeeping people's worldviews successfully.
Yes, correct. But I mean, it's funny to see this play out in the court, like saying he's going to be charged with federal crimes versus state crimes. There seems to be a lot of anything goes in New York these days. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I just thought we should have a little historical context from our government. Honestly, is why I brought the video.
See, these are the reasons, Steve, though, that it makes me feel little like conscious about like, whoa, they're scared, right? Like maybe they're not, but this is what I said. Oh, they're scared. They're charging him as a terrorist. They want to let everybody know you don't fuck with the ruling class and the elite here. Otherwise, this is what we'll do.
Because it's a media event. It's whatever. Yeah. It's a fucking parade.
It's a shot-by-shot remake of the Superman movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did bring up the January 6th thing, because this is we call the protesters domestic terrorists. And Nancy Pelosi pretending she was afraid, she was trembling as the Capitol is being attacked.
With her
all
own
that is that fear is staged. So I feel like that's a great comparison, because the fear they're showing now is staged as well. They know exactly what they're doing. Calling him a terrorist is putting us in our place. It's saying we'll make an example out of you if you stand up for your rights. Not that, I mean, obviously, you actually killed a guy versus the January 6th protesters didn't actually kill anyone. But so that's a different thing. But the idea is that you make an example. Meanwhile, you got Netanyahu committing acts of terrorism, genocide on 2.2 million Palestinians, the International Criminal Court saying he's on a wanted list. He is a terrorist. As defined by mostly every country in the world, yet we're not calling him a terrorist. So there's absolutely, the Chomsky video tells the blueprint of how we use these words against the American people, against people without power. They get put in their place and made an example of, and that's exactly what's happening now. No, I don't think they're scared. I think they're just following the blueprint.
Is Breonna Boston a terrorist? The single mom who got arrested?
No, but that that's what, exactly. They're saying they're the people that don't have power. You label them the thing that you gotta use this verbiage that Chomsky's talking about to put people in their place and make an example of them. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they're literally saying she was a copycat. Yeah. I mean, it's we've gone a boat too far, kids.
And on that 3D print a very rare gun issued to the OSS in 1943. I mean, how can she be a copycat?
I know. Clearly, I think you got her kids too.
We have to be careful with our language, and I know, and plus, I know you want to get into. I want to hear more about your personal experience with your mom and what's going on with you talking to these doctors and having these discussions. But we have to be careful too, because we could say, the rage that we feel, the same rage we saw, we're seeing with Luigi, and we can be vocal and say, yes, we should do these things and stick it to the system. You say the wrong thing, they're going, that's an act of terror. Your words are violence, right? The words are violence thing, right? So we have to be really careful that we're what are you suggesting that we should go around and kill all the? It's like just because you feel the rage, you feel you're empathetic to all the people that Brian Thompson has directly been involved with their death by not giving them their coverage. And you're saying, I get that. I feel that. Oh, what are you saying? Are your words violence? Are you the terrorist too? So yeah,
it's gone. It's gone way too far. It's gone way too far. What do you make of the 3D printed gun though, Steve? Yeah. The 3D printed gun.
Well, I mean, look, dude, in New York State specifically, Kathy Hochul and the state legislature or assembly, I think it is in New York, has been trying to go after 3D printed guns for years now. And they tried to pass a law or did pass a law where you had to register a 3D printer with the state like you would a firearm, things like that. And I think that there's been a huge push to go after quote unquote ghost guns for quite a while. So it plays into that significantly. At the same time, if you're in an area where you don't have regulated 3D printers, get as many of those out as you can. You do that.
Yeah, this allows them to open the door to go and make legislation to go after those 3D printed guns. But does it overcompensate? Or, I mean, doesn't the idea to the masses about 3D printers, doesn't that overcompensate for what they can do against it? In other words, okay, shit, we've been trying to go after these guns. Now we can use this to go after these guns. I think it sends a bigger message to the people out there. Oh, wait a second. 3D printers out here. Instead of ghost guns, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I mean, you demonize it, then you co-opt it, and then you claim that you saved it, and that's what's happening with artificial intelligence. That's what happened with independent media. That's what's happening with Bitcoin. It's definitely going to happen with 3D printing.
Yeah. Does anybody
I want to know how Brian Thompson ended up as CEO of United Healthcare to begin with. I mean, he's like a kid from Iowa with not, like obviously a smart guy.
Very dead eyes and gibbon teeth.
How the hell do you end up as a CEO at 50 of United Healthcare with that background? It's very strange. Except for if you're put there in a place to be able to launder a shit ton of money, make a shit ton of profit for the people who are willing to give you the power to do that.
And put AI at the forefront of health insurance.
Yeah. ARPA-H, dig deep, kids. It's fun.
And then be one of the sacrificial lambs, right?
And I'm going to go back to the Palo Alto networks. That's just a fucking Google spinoff, and that's where they were funneling. How did Brian Thompson 3 weeks before he was indicted know that he should sell off, 30% of his United Healthcare stock?
Yeah, that was another. Yeah.
When you get into these positions, they tell you what the fuck you're going to do. And when you don't do it, they take you out. Or if it becomes convenient for them, they take you out.
What the consequences, sorry to cut you off, Amber, but what the consequences are your first 6 months or year of being CEO, but then hubris sets in and you making millions and millions and millions of dollars hands over fist just by doing a favor, kind of takes you out of the reality that you're expendable. People forget that they're expendable, and sometimes they get reminded.
And tell me that guy didn't have a shit ton of guns available to him if he wanted to go grab a gun. Grandpa's closet. Come on, give me a break.
No, we're specifically going to 3D print an OSS issued pistol and then 3D print a suppressor on top of that.
And carry it out like a mob hit.
And then, make it look, except for you don't know how to fucking shoot.
No, I mean, that's the thing they're saying too, is that the angles that there was probably somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really, the hit itself, I've been saying pretty much the whole time that I don't think that dude actually did the shoot.
No.
Or if he did, he maybe freaking, winged him in the freaking leg. but that's the only place the gun was pointed.
What do we make of the monopoly money?
We also
by
have
the
the
way?
eyebrow problem, right?
Oh, I told you about that. He's a greaseball. That they grow that back in about 6 hours. I got cousins like that. Forget about it. They shave in the morning, and by the time they go home, they already got a freaking.
Somebody did clean him up for the perp walk, though.
They did.
Oh man, I think
he had freaking separated eyebrows. He had a freaking high taper fade.
Well, and how does this play into all the bullshit going on in New York with Eric Adams and the chief of police and all the corruption going back to Diddy? I mean, like it just hits so many ties here. How do a husband and wife team end up with the two most prominent cases?
Yeah, currently the most high profile cases. Yeah.
And in the same fucking prison. Like, come on. Like, what is Epstein in the closet around the corner? Like, it's gotten weird. Like, nobody's.
No, but R. Kelly is. So it's harmonious. Harmonious.
What do you guys make of the monopoly money?
They're again going for sympathy. That's a play move to gain sympathy to make him the folk hero.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm gonna run it back through Ted Kaczynski again. Look at all the, it's fucking setup.
He quoted Cooper, didn't he? Bill Cooper, I believe. William Cooper.
Oh, Steve? Yeah. Oh, and they get to make what's his name? Michael Moore. Look, that whole thing gets to come up again too.
Sicko. Yeah.
I would just like to point out that for $16,
I was gonna say, sell your fucking shirt.
You can get a Ted Kaczynski shirt and a Bill Cooper shirt. Bill Cooper on a pale horse. So yeah,
he's got. I was like,
great
who is
that?
He's like, that's Father Bill Cooper.
So you get to vilify yet have all these additional conversations and tie-ins. It's a perfect media psy-op for mainstream media. Honestly. It really is.
Do you think there's a chance that this could blow up a little bit in their face, or do you think this is going exactly the way they wanted it?
I think parts of it are blowing up in their face, and other parts it's going exactly what they want. But at the bottom of the day, they're controlling the narrative because, people don't want to have actual conversation, unlike here. So, hi, Gomez.
Missed that dog.
Big baby.
Steve, do you see this anyway blowing up in their face at all?
I mean, sure. There's lots of ways it could. Okay, you can't have. Look. Okay, get over there. If you want the fucking pizza bone, get over there. Go. Just back up. Back up. Fuck. Get off me.
Never seen that dog pissed yet, huh?
He's piped up to a couple of other dogs, but it was provoked.
Okay.
It was provoked. I've never seen him act aggressively unwarranted.
Yeah.
I wish Tiffany was able to join us too, because I think she had some good points.
Yeah, she couldn't even talk today. So
I know, poor thing. Get some tea.
Yeah. I know she's burning the candle at both ends. She does this whole for homeless kids or kids in foster homes. You can get gifts and send it to them by Christmas. And I wanted her to be able to plug that today.
Hey, Craig, just real quick. I'm gonna get out because I have to get ready for the World War III watch. You mentioned at the top of the hour the top of the show, we have other stuff going on, the distractions, all that stuff. So we have the serious stuff. We couldn't even get into this on our last show because so much going on. But we need to take time with each thing. So with that said, we are going to cover
before you dip out. Before you dip out, because I was going to ask Steve, and we'll come back to Steve about how this can blow up in his face, because I want you to be able to say, okay, I wanted your opinions on this too as well, and then you'll dip out and people come back. Okay. We got some foreign policy and some stuff. We only had a 6-hour show the other day, so we couldn't cover everything. So you know what I'm saying? That's like 2 days for Steve, man. He's got 15 hours of freaking content he's got to produce every single goddamn week that he does. But do you think this could blow up in their face and then dip out and come back when you're ready? Do you want to do it on this stream? Do you want to do it on your own stream and I'll jump on your stream? What do you want?
What we can do is
we have a decent amount of people here already. We can just add your stuff there if you want. You let me know.
How about this? I can start it on mine. You can, when you guys are done, pause yours and then just flip over to mine so you can keep yours going. That That's how you can do that on stream.
I don't even know how to do that, but I'll let Jayme
pause
figure
yours.
it
You can
out.
just pick up on mine. Mine will start fresh.
Okay.
And you can just carry it over. So we can go double. Okay.
Jayme, if you know how to do that, let's do that. But Matt, how could this blow up in the ruling class's face?
If it'll blow up on their face if they make a bad move during this trial, I think it really I'm actually getting a bowl of popcorn ready to watch what they're gonna have if Luigi's gonna be testifying, what he's gonna say what's gonna come out of his mouth. What's gonna be the giveaway there? How much and we haven't even mentioned the word MK Ultra today, but let's see how far it goes. If it is a patsy situation, does he make it to the trial? There's so many more questions I have. And yes, there's a lot of ways it could blow up in their face, but let's see what they got planned. He might not even make it to the trial. That could be enough. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be ready to even articulate the stuff that we hope he can articulate. I don't even know if he'll be able to do it. So let's see.
All right, get on out of here. We'll see you in a little bit. Matt Weinglass, Homeless Left, World War III watch coming up. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, you guys. Great discussion today.
Steve.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of in the nature of the state to fumble this stuff. Like they really don't pull it off excellently in the first place. So I think that every step of the way, they're going to make a couple of either forced or unforced errors that will open up the ferry to Speculation Island for a lot more people. I think that we've gotten so far into the period of accelerated inversion that these guys are getting, either sloppy or they're just freaking wasted almost all of the time. At least the underlings and the functionaries that have to go out there and talk about it. Have you seen Kamala Harris sober this year?
Nope.
Like not a once
in a couple years.
And I'm not even fooling around here. Like she's wasted every time she's on camera. There's a lot of people, Pelosi, there's a lot of people that are just hammered every time that they're out there. Mm-hmm. And most of them are, getting up there in age and don't have a whole lot to worry about. So they can sort of let it all hang out. But I mean, I'm always, optimistic that with every psy-op comes a new swath of people over into what will eventually get them into legitimate independent media. You see it all the time, and they're trying so hard with this. The state's trying so hard with this that I think in a lot of different ways it's going to blow up in their face, because every exercise of power by a weak individual is eventually mocked by stronger individuals. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you see some freaking scrawny twerp or freaking never thrown a punch in his life idiot flex on you, you laugh. Maybe you move on, but eventually sometimes you put that little kid in his place so that they understand. And I think we've seen a lot of weak little twerps jumping up and getting awfully pipey, like Elon Musk, where eventually it's going to blow back on them. And somebody with actual strength is going to pop them in the freaking cockwasher one good time. And that's all it's going to take for a number of other people to stand up and go, oh shit, I didn't know we could do that. We're doing that? Is that what we're doing? All right, let's go do it. Because I think people are primed for it. It's just getting people to see that both sides of it are exactly orchestrated the way that they're supposed to go.
Has he made a plea for guilty, not guilty yet? Has that happened yet? Or I'm trying to pay attention to it, but I want to make. Has he made a plea?
I just dropped the indictment.
You did
in the chat.
Okay.
So they're just this just happened today, I believe. Or
Okay. So here's the indictment.
17th. Sorry. But you can you can kind of see where they're going with this, but we've got, Bragg's the DA. There's a shit ton of Soros sides connections there. Again, I'm just like connection. We've got the, manufactured weapon. We're really definitely hitting on that, which is so unnecessary and weird. I think it's going to blow up in their face in a number of different ways, but I also think they're going to, of course, gain. Otherwise, they're doing that risk reward thing before they start this shit. So I think they've, it's choose your own adventure time. And,
Wow.
we're going to make the most out of every terrible situation we can create.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris Rantcast would talk about the wedding cake of psyops, where it's just stacked on top of stacked on top of stacked, and all of a sudden, it's just eventually all made with the same ingredients by the same chef or chefs, but there's just layers on top of layers of this nonsense.
I want to know where we go after the hostels and the e-bikes and the Monopoly.
Right? On that week-long harrowing journey from Manhattan to Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Definitely required several.
Were the only things you could keep on your person were the only two things that could connect you to the incident.
And I definitely would have my celebratory meal at the Totally normal. I'm sure he loved that food also.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. Yeah.
What he was raised
scion of a multi-millionaire traditional Sicilian family, eating at McDonald's a lot. Those guys, yeah.
Man, this is going to be a crazy story. Like I said, the only way we get to the bottom is if I get out there and get a exclusive with Luigi. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. I do a call-in show now on Wednesdays on WBAI. Hopefully they'll let me keep going pretty soon. I'm sure it's a Pacifica channel. I'm sure they'll pull me eventually. Like they pulled Derek Bros, and you know what I'm saying? They do that right away if you don't have
say all the right things, Pasta. Come on.
Listen, I play devil's advocate on everything. There's certain things I don't talk about on that channel. It's funny because when I go on Kara Cashanova's channel about once a week now too as well, she's in Long Island. That's a conservative channel over there. There's things I can't say over there that I could say at WBAI, and there's some things I can't say at WBI that I can't say, you know what I'm saying, vice versa. So I have outlets to speak my mind on everything and how I feel about things, right? The Long Island conservative channel just not going to talk about Israel over there. You know what I'm saying? But otherwise, it'll be the last time I talk. And on WBAI in New York, I try not to talk about COVID over there, because I don't want to be the last time I talk on shit over there on Pacifica. So, and I try to arrange it. But it's interesting to me because I've made it a call-in show to hear what people think and how they're grasping with situations. And the most interesting thing I found last week on last week's show, which was the first show, is that nobody really answered the question of hero or villain. Like they're afraid to still, right? Like I think the people who thought he was a hero pointed out a lot of the things the negative things that the healthcare company did, and that was the majority of the people. But the one guy who did kind of call in made some statements about what it's like now to just have a free-for-all. Now we're going to just take matter into our own hands. On Kara's show, when I did Kara's show and we talked about it, it was like, hey, somebody sells me a bad car, and now I'm going to show back up and clip them. I know it was a bad comparison, but it was the mentality of like, now people are going to be taking matters into their own hands, and that's not good. But first of all, if let's say, in fact, Luigi did do this on his own, it's not like everybody's going to have the guts to go do something like this. It's not going to be like, oh, now since Luigi did it, now it's a free-for-all to go, first of all, did he even have the means to do this? You know what I'm saying? We know for a fact that if this guy wanted to, if this was a real situation, he could have got the hell out of Dodge. He has $6 million in the bank. Like you said, it's set to inherit in a trust $30 to $100 million, right? Something like that. We don't know because it is a trust. He could have got the hell out of Dodge in a heartbeat, right? But he has the means to do that. So I don't think everybody has the means to do this. So I don't think this is going to be like Pandora's box of opening the door of people to just handle problems the way they want to with violence. I know that's the argument there. But if you guys have any closing comments before we get you on out of here, please throw them on in there. We'll start with you, Amber King. And we'll go from there. But like I said, it's intriguing to hear what the public says. I'm going to keep tapping in to hear what they have to say.
Well, I was hoping Jayme might be able to bring up the link I just dropped, because I want to just tie this back into the insider trading, the collapse of healthcare.
Insider trading happens all the time, right? Like, it's not something that anybody's going to go to jail for. In fact, they've made it almost legal in Congress.
And it's rarely gotten away with. But I think the ties between the Pelosi and the Mangione family are huge. And here's a very mainstream, article talking about copycat shootings. If you scroll down to the bottom, it's talking about Nancy, Pelosi's
go to the bottom.
Gave him the well, you see what starts like keep going down to the very bottom. Right there. Thomas Mangione, or Thomas DeSalandro, the late brother of Pelosi, who funded her and put her in place, talking about the Mangione family.
Down a little bit more.
About calling cards, talking about rough around the edges, like there's clear connections here. It's very.
Yeah, I just don't. That was going back to the beginning of the show, though. Luigi's not.
It's too.
How much of this pasta is you just reflexively going, "What mafia? There's no mafia." I don't know
what guy? What murder?
I mean, how much of that is just reflexive? I mean, let's be honest there. And I gotta split you guys.
I know, but all right. Say your last bit. Let Steve say his last bit, and we'll get him out of here right away. Steve, let everybody know where they can find you. Your final thoughts on Mangione, and thank you so much for joining the show.
amwakeupshow.com for everything. I think this is going to be whatever it was, which, the likelihood of us actually finding out is relatively slim, whatever it actually was, what it's going to be and what it's going to be used as is a wedge issue to push people onto one side of the healthcare conversation or the other. I think that there's a lot of underlying components in terms of, technocratic governments that are implied here. But we've been talking about forever how the state in general, doesn't matter what country you're standing in, is a mafia. We've talked about how the history of the United States, especially at the level of the federal government and the intelligence agencies, to say nothing of many major corporations, is interwoven with the mafia. And so for it to be somehow completely beyond the pale or outside of consideration that there are long-standing criminal elements to this that span oceans and stuff like that, it's, I think it's worth a look, especially because healthcare and food are like the two biggest grips that these people have on us. And it's because of the predatory models that they've shoved us into with both food consumption and production and sick care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get out of here, Steve. Thank you so much. Everybody go check out AM Wake Up on Rumble, on Rockfin. Go to amwakeupshow.com. Get yourself some gear over there. It's really cheap for a reason. He's not making a profit. He wants you to wear some shirts. Go get yourself a Bill Cooper shirt. Thank you so much. Or the shirt that I have. I have two shirts. One says, "Don't trust the state. Don't ever trust the state." Love
Go
you,
ahead
Steve.
and get that Ted Kaczynski shirt for the little Luigi on your Christmas list too. Yeah, do that. Do that.
We love you, brother. We love you.
Take care of you guys.
Amber, closing thoughts, closing statements as we get on out of here.
I'm gonna go back to the wedding cake analogy, the spider web analogy. I think there's a lot deeper, darker connections to this than anybody on the surface is going to be able to see, but they're going to pick up tips and little sound bites that's going to play into the rest of the larger conversation, which is that massive shift in control. I think you're going to see legacy families. I think you're going to see healthcare. I think California plays a big part of this. I think Silicon Valley and cybersecurity plays a huge part of this, and of course, all the things with the technocratic state, the deep state, their power structures being threatened a little bit right here, and and not only here in the United States, where we absolutely hate our healthcare model, but also in Europe as well. Shit's hitting the fan in there for a number of different reasons, which you're about to talk about on your next show. So I think there's just a lot more. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye, and hopefully, at least if anything, average people, look into a little more than normal. But I think there's a lot going on here. It's also way too convenient timing. So that's kind of where I'm going to. You can find me. I'm going to be rebooting my Brave New Future after the chaotic mess of my election that's still garnering local headlines almost weekly in our local papers over the opponent. And I've actually found some connections to CrowdStrike from my banning of being on social media and my opponent in my little tiny PUD commissioner race.
For those people out there who don't know what CrowdStrike is, that was the company that the DNC outsourced their potential supposedly hacking, right? Of their servers. And the FBI just took CrowdStrike's word. And CrowdStrike, I believe, is located in Ukraine, isn't it?
I do believe they have a large presence there, and large also ties to these same entities we're talking about today. Also large piece of the Democratic machine that keeps on chugging along. So yeah, I'm going to be restarting Brave New Future on Roar Media with that. We've also got some merch launching. I've got some time in the next couple of weeks hoping to get that live, and we're actually going to do a reboot of The Dive hopefully when Shanda's done with her cancer treatment. So really excited about that. Just some good old shit show talking. It's kind of fun when the three of us get in the room and we bring little content, and then man, do we have a lot to say about it. So I know the audience love that, and we'll get to have some fun conversations. So lots coming up on Roar Media in 2025. I know it's been a little quiet the last few months. Shanda's almost done with her treatment. Fingers crossed.
There's a lot of stuff that's been going on that's kind of like, listen, that we've had, not even that, the sanctions. I was doing so much work on Sputnik. I was doing work on RT, and they got sanctioned. They got sanctioned out of business, out of existence. So then I lost a lot of gigs myself, and plus I was going through a whole family stuff, and with Shanda, what she's going through.
This is part of this is part of the design, unfortunately, is controlled chaos.
Well, I look forward to meeting up with you for some wine and cheese and some shitty movies or wherever
we'll go to Baltimore instead,
Baltimore, damn, man. Baltimore.
Go to the roots. All right. Have a great day, you guys.
Thank you so much. How is Shanda, by the way?
I haven't talked to her this week. I know she had a rough week last week, so we're getting there, but she's just got to get through this push. I'm sure it's stressful at the holidays and, just feeling like shit. So looking forward to getting her past the radiation and less chemo. So
everybody's saying cheesy movies with cheese. We love you, Amber King. We'll speak.
All right. Love you.
A fan from me out there.
Will do. Take care.
All right, guys. That's it for today. That is the special Luigi panel. We went 2 hours. We're going to be back with Matt Weinglass, Homeless Left. We're going to talk about a little World War III watch. There's a lot of things we didn't get to the other day. I mean, wow. I don't know if you saw that last clip of Vladimir Putin pretty much saying that he's going to normalize relations. It looks like there was some backdoor deal that happened, which has been kind of like, it's kind of like making sense of a lot of the things that happened. All the money that was given to Tenet Media from the RT affiliates, allegedly, and everybody who wore that RT brand on their face and the Sputnik brand on their badge, really, they're the ones who got screwed, while this other media was kind of allegedly was promoted. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right on back. Thank you guys so much for following us today. Thank you for everybody for the super chats. I think we got to all of them, just in case. Thank you to any Sudry Mule, any Sudry, not Sunday, Sudry or Sudry Mule. Pasta to go. Glad to support the show. Hope you get this contribution on YouTube. We will. And of course, to Chris Leon, great panel pasta. Much love. This is Chris Leon. This is Pasta Jardula. This is Pasta to go. Thank you to Jayme CheeseSlice on the ones and twos. Matt Weinglass, Amber King, Tiffany Cianci. Oh, you got something to say? Steve Poikonen and Amber King. Go ahead, Matt.
No, we went ahead and set everything up here, so we'll be ready to go in about 5 minutes. I just want to let everybody to know we'll cross over and do the countdown soon when we bring in our other channels with the homeless left. So letting you guys know we're good to go. So give us 5 minutes and we'll start the countdown.
Let's do it. See you in a bit.
All right. It is time for World War III Watch. Let's just face it, it's already started. We have a lot to get into on this. We deliberately planned this time today, the Saturday morning. It's still morning here on the West Coast, to cover these stories that were left over from our Thursday show. We had a massive 6-hour show on Thursday. We were trying to get into the World War III stuff. We couldn't get to it because there was just so much else to go through that day. And so we came up with this idea to do the Saturday morning. We just came off of the Pasta to Go Luigi panel. That was awesome. We're going to bring Craig back in just a moment after I intro with you guys here. And let you know, we do appreciate all of your guys' support on all of our channels as we do the Homeless Left, Pasta to Go, all of our channels, Truthwire. We're all over the place, but we have this one common theme, and that is we take a non-tribal approach to news, a non-tribal approach to life. We are all populist. We don't align with any one party anymore. We don't align with a tribe, with a cult, with a church, with an environment that tells us what to think, that tells us what emotion to feel. We're sick with that. We are going to come up with our own ideas based on our own critical thinking skills as news breaks. There's so much of it. There's been so much of it this year. This has been an insane year, 2024, counting it down. So right now, it's time to do some World War III watch, everything that we weren't able to cover on Thursday's show. This includes what's happening in Israel with Syria. We have some new news about Yemen striking back, fighting back against Israel. We have so much going on with Russia and Ukraine as well. We're going to talk through some of that. And at the end, we'll give you a little Trudeau update in Canada. It's all connected, man. It's all connected. We're looking at World War III as it's unfolding, and there's not much we really can do. We don't mean to be so doom and gloom about it, but I do think that spreading awareness to people is something. It's something we can do, and maybe have enough pushback to prevent the annihilation of the entire planet, which is our goal. We'd love to make it to 2025. We have a week to go there, but at this point, let me go ahead and bring in our co-host. There he is, Craig Pasta Jardula. We are continuing where we left off on Thursday. Welcome back. And by the way, great panel earlier on your show with the Luigi files. You call it the Luigi files. I love it. And now we can kind of switch back over and do this stuff we missed on Thursday. How are you holding up with everything? I know you have all the stuff with your mom as well happening, which is insane because we have our personal lives we have to deal with at the same time as we're trying to take on the military-industrial complex and all the corruption on the planet. How are you doing, Craig?
I'm doing great. In fact, after this is finished, I gotta have to go visit mom too as well. But I do want to have a quick wrap up on it because I know we did talk about it. But after I've had like 5 minutes to just kind of sit back, digress, and take in what we talked about. I'm so glad we had that panel because I was looking at, those, I see things that I now that I didn't see beforehand that I was blinded by, right? Like I could say, okay, this could be definitely the way to usher in more track and trace, a digital system. We're the only country that doesn't have a universal healthcare system. We're the only country where the insurance companies just, leave us for dead. I'm not saying that every system out there is good, but Steve pointed out immediately, and sometimes like my libertarian friends and Steve, they're like, oh man, no, there's no way I don't want this system, but the system we have right now surely leaves too many people falling through the cracks without the healthcare. Like we say, I think 70,000 people die every year because they're underinsured or they have no insurance, and it's even more than that when you look at it, the 200 million claims that are denied. So I think that we have to do two things moving forward. I think number one, that we do have to take more responsibility on the front end, right? This is something that I thought was amazing about the whole COVID situation. It's where it flipped the health industry completely on its face, where the conservatives were more about being, being healthy nowadays and taking accountability. We have to have more transparency on not only the foods we eat, but what they put in the foods that are killing us in the first place. These processed foods that are making us sick on top of all the bullshit we experienced during the COVID-19 and before that. So I think we have to do that. Texas Slim, who you mentioned, has the beef initiative where you can get grass-fed beef that's got none of this GMOs or crap in it and stuff that we're eating that's making us sick. We have to get more into those programs. But then I think we have to have a conversation of what healthcare looks like, right? Because at the end of the day, we want more choices, more freedom to do what we want to do. That's why I said stipends, money. Give me money that instead of spending my tax dollars to go bomb or invade another country, give us, we the people who need it most, the money to seek the healthcare we want, right? Because I think that the left is just going to push for a universal healthcare system without realizing all the entities that are attached to it that make it authoritarian, that make it even still more fascism, right? Like the relationship between the private and public entities, that relationship, at the end of the day, somebody's got to pay for it. Somebody's going to make the money from it. And it will be these private companies and the big pharma companies right now that control our healthcare system, which we call the sick care system. So I'm eager to get into the streets when you see people who want healthcare. Okay, what does that look like to you? Is it a handout to the big pharma companies? I mean, what can we use? Who's going to dictate and say what type of healthcare one individual wants to seek? So there's a lot of questions out there, and I'm glad we had that panel. I'm glad we had Steve and Amber there. It was a shame that Tiffany was sick and then she had technical problems on top of it, but it was definitely a great show. And I'm definitely got my mind thinking differently moving forward. I'm not completely turned 180 degrees. You know what I'm saying? I disagree with Steve about don't pay attention to it. I'm going to pay close attention. And he didn't say just don't pay attention to it. He said more like recognize it for what it is, or at least keep your eyes on the prize. And Amber even said that in the beginning of the show. We have to recognize the situation in front of us and understand it. So therefore we can then make a clear observation and a decision on what it is once we understand exactly who it is. So I think that's it was just a great panel. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did it. And thank you so much for joining us. And I'm looking forward to getting into this conversation too as well. So
absolutely. And thanks for that, Craig. And moving into World War III watch, we're going to start with Putin. We covered this. So when this first broke, regarding the assassination. So let's go ahead and start with this. This was the chief of Russian Chemical Defense Forces was killed in Moscow in a Moscow blast. The name of this guy, this is Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov. He was the head of the Russia's Radiological, Chemical, and Biological Defense Forces, and he was the lead guy that was investigating the bioweapons in Ukraine and had exposed all of this. So we understood that Hunter Biden's connection with the companies that were setting these bioweapons labs up as early as 2014. We know that Biden himself just did just pardoned his son for an 11-year range, which is a very interesting number. It's based on this activity in Ukraine, which this lieutenant general was uncovering. So he was killed in this blast. Putin, we've talked about Putin on the shows a lot, and we understand that he has this ability to keep poise, to keep calm, not react spontaneously, not act emotionally, but he stays cool and collected. But at this point, we're moving into new territory now. We're in a place where we understand that the weapons going into Russia right now are fully funded by the U.S., by NATO. Ukraine is sending weapons in right now. This is something that we can't avoid any longer. So what we're seeing now is this. President Putin is saying that war has been declared on the Russian world today. This is as of yesterday, a significant shift in rhetoric. It's sparking concerns globally and the international community on high alert, as this could be the start of retaliation. Oh my God, some actual retaliation from Putin. We haven't really seen it. We've seen these very strategic defense moves and just demonstrating what Russia's capable of. We've seen it in Ukraine over the last 2.5 years. We've never seen anything like any sort of full force attack from Putin. Could that change now? After this happened yesterday, Ukraine fired using United States HIMARS, the governor of the region. A criminal case has been opened. So far, we know that there's been 6 lost, 10 injured, including two kids in a civilian area. This is no joke, guys. This is the biggest attack of war. You couldn't even have anything like this happen in any other situation and not consider, if you're on the side sending weapons into civilian areas right now, you are declaring war. And everybody attached to NATO, and this is why we talk about NATO being such the most dangerous terrorist organization on the planet. Noam Chomsky has said this. There's no need for NATO anymore. It's served its purpose. Now it acts as the most dangerous organization on the entire planet. And this is why, because you go and attack a civilian area, it's like every single country attached to NATO is declaring war right now on Russia. What are your thoughts on this right now, Craig? And I'm going to be playing a video in a second of Nick Cruz explaining what happened with this whole thing. But I'm going to hear your takes first.
I'm going to hold on to my take for 1 second and pass it to Nick Cruz because I have something to say about this. And I just think it's a little bit too soon to throw the monkey wrench in there. It's kind of mirror what we talked about as far as it being a psy-op, right? At this point. Between you and me, I have no longer trust in what Vladimir Putin has to say. I think a lot of the truthers who always said that they're pushing for a one world government, we're seeing more of those play out behind the scenes. Everything we were seeing with the independent media, what happened with RT, what happened with Sputnik, what happened with Tenet Media, the fact that the Kremlin has not had a response on that seems like to be more of a setup. Certain voices are being pushed. And if you ask me, I think that Vladimir Putin has a lot of Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation have a lot of questions to be answered, especially when it comes to Syria. This situation, this conversation would have been totally different if it was before the falling of Syria and before Vladimir Putin made those comments. So let's play Nick Cruz video, and then I'll bring a little video of my own, and we'll straighten shit out.
Okay, let's check it out.
Yeah.
Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov was assassinated by Ukraine in a brazen terrorist attack after he exposed United States biolabs in Ukraine. Kirillov was allegedly killed by a scooter planted with explosives outside an apartment building in Moscow. The West continued to slide into barbarism by endorsing terrorism and political assassination by their allies.
You comfortable with the assassination, though?
Well, as I say, we must stand with Ukraine. I think that's a developing situation, but this morning's discussion was very clear about the strategic need for NATO to stand as we do with Ukraine in this critical period.
The West claimed Ukraine has the right to do this because of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, but this sets a dangerous precedent that will completely destabilize global politics. Does Russia have the right to assassinate United States senators and NATO officials because they support arming weapons that will be used to kill Russians? The international rules-based order is essentially the West having a monopoly on war crimes and acts of terrorism. The main reason why Ukraine had Igor Kirillov killed was because Igor was consistently exposing the United States' role in funding biolabs in Ukraine. Kirillov also exposed the United States developing bioweapons in Africa. He submitted evidence at the UN multiple times, only to be vetoed by the United States. The United States funding biolabs in Ukraine and bioweapons in Africa is something that our establishment still viciously denies despite all the evidence. And Igor Kirillov had the receipts that he was more than happy to show whenever he had the opportunity to. Ukraine engaging in these political assassinations is an act of desperation. It's only a matter of time before their crimes and the crimes of the United States are fully revealed.
All right. Let me just make a quick statement on that right now, that this is old news, right? I just want to say this much. People like Steve and a lot of those people like Derek Bros, and in particular, when to talk about bioweapons in Africa, we're talking about Sam Husseini has been doing major work on this for a long time, which would have led you to believe and understand and look at COVID in a completely different light. So I appreciate Nick bringing it to the table right now, but this is something that's been talked about from a long time ago that people ignored, or these were the people who initially got censored too as well, Matt. These people were censored hardcore out of the gate.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right? So when I started talking about on the Convo Couch, what really started to propel us is we started talking about Epstein, and we were taking a lot of work that T-Lav, Whitney Webb, a lot of these people were doing beforehand. We were taking that work and bringing it to a different audience. And that's when we got censored. Like, whoa, what are you doing? You're not allowed to tell the left about these things. We got the left's head in the clouds now. How dare you do this? And that's when we started getting censored and shut down. So this information has been out there for quite some time. I think the the thing that is most compelling about the stories and this guy getting whacked or hit was the fact that he was the one who shed a lot of light and brought the receipts, and which pretty much justified, I think, Russia going in as quickly as they did. First of all, it wasn't quick. It was 8 years. It was after the Minsk Accords for years trying to do this. But when they had got wind of these bioweapons that were in all over Ukraine, they said, no. In fact, I think the Russian Federation, along with Vladimir Putin, gave them warning and said, you better get anything out of there right now because we're going to just disintegrate these MFers right now, right? So they pulled everything out. And this is where you had Victoria Nuland saying, oh, that's not true. And then less than a week later, she's saying, well, they were research facilities, but if the Russians take them over, they're now bioweapons labs. I mean, so I think that's the most intriguing part about what this has been going on. But the story itself has been out there for quite some time. Yeah. So what's going to be any different this time now that we knew this stuff than last time? I mean,
well, I think the difference is that we have this timeline, and I look, without going down the Trump, that whole, we can go on that forever as far as what is Trump going to actually accomplish when he gets in. But there does seem to be a certain amount of urgency right now to get as much done as possible as far as the money, the extra money laundering going on. Biden's at the very end. It's like, let's get as much money into Ukraine as possible. Let's get these, let's attack Russia as much as possible. Like you said, this bioweapon thing has been on the table for a long time. Yeah. Why is he? I'll pass back to you. Why do you think it took till now to assassinate the guy that had all this information? We have it all. It's not like they took him out and then we didn't get the information. We had it. We had the information. They're assassinating now. They're killing civilians right now with their weapons funded by Ukraine, by NATO, by the US. So all this is happening. It kind of seems like it's picking up a momentum, and there's just the urgency happening. Do you think that might change Putin's position? I know you say we don't trust Putin 100%, but he's saying this seems like an act of war right now. Is he actually verbalizing this, whereas before he wasn't, because it seems like it's being fast tracked? Is there something different right now, at least in the momentum of how fast things are happening?
Well, number one, he could just be playing a part to keep it going on, right? The whole theatrics that, Putin can be playing a part right now. And I think he's more of that part than I thought in the past, right? I did believe that, I wanted to hope again, Matt, that, Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping were two nationalists of sorts that say, hey, we're going to do what's best for our country. We're not going to play by the World Economic Forum's games anymore. We're done. We're pulling out of it. We understand that we control most of the resources. We seized a lot of the means of production out there. People are buying our stuff. They're buying from Russia. They're buying our energy. From China, they're buying our products. So we don't have to play their games anymore. They're demonic, and we're not going to do anymore. As far as the sense of urgency is going, I want people to understand that there is a sense of urgency going on to do these things before Trump does get in. Not because Trump is going to bring about accountability and they wouldn't do these things under Trump. It's just that certain Democrats and Republicans can do different things that have different perspectives, right, from the people in the country. Bill Clinton had to push through NAFTA because Ronald Reagan couldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump had to sign the CARES Act because the Democrats couldn't do it. There are certain things the right can do that they won't get, that they won't get held accountable, that the left will, and vice versa. So this isn't a thing that, Donald Trump is coming, the CIA needs to do this before there's accountability. Kash Patel is going to go there and hold, the FBI to account. That's bullshit. Kash Patel even came out and said that you have to praise Israel, that they're the number one responsibility. And at the end of the day, that's where the power structure lies within the Zionist nation, right? At this point, I believe that, they're shaking the roots and the Americans are reacting to it. They're captured. They're the ones calling the shots, where it might have been different years ago. But and you can make that argument. Maybe they're just working together collectively, whatever is going on. But I mean, you look back to the USS Liberty, right, when they tried to attack an American vessel. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that these things are taking place because it's going to add to the theatrics, and it's going to also allow the trust certain segments of the population to gain more trust in Donald Trump or more trust in the left. Whatever the case may be, that's why they do these things. These are acted out theatrics, and I think a lot of that can be proven with, like I said, with Vladimir's position on Syria and what happened over there. So, I mean, it's just, to me, it's like, whoa, everybody's playing a part right now. Now, could it be a backdoor deal that took place where the American government or the West is holding Russia accountable, a gun to their head? Yeah, maybe so. But then you would have thought that a lot of these drones hitting these buildings that are coming from the Kiev regime would have stopped. So I don't know what to make of this whole situation, but it is very disheartening to see what happened with Syria and to see what's taking place. And it seems like there's going to be a normalization of sorts between Russia, China, and the West, or at least that's what they're pushing for. Why would they do that, right? Maybe to usher in that one world government we've been kind of warned about from the Truther movement for many years. Go ahead, Matt.
No, do you want to show what you pulled up?
Sure.
Let's
I'll bring it to the table. So this is the tweet Fiorella said, and Fiorella's done. She's got attached to this the interview with Vanessa. Putin says that the terrorists Russia and Syria fought for years are gone, and that those there now have changed, proven by the West opening relationships with them. So they must have changed perception. Tongue-in-cheek response to U.S. 60 or betrayal. And this is the Vladimir Putin video.
You've mentioned Syria. Oh, for yourselves and for those who pay your salary, they want to present everything happening in Syria as some kind of Russia's defeat, Russia's failure. But I would like to assure you that this is not the case. And I'll tell you why. Because we've come to Syria 10 years ago to make sure that no terrorist enclave was established there, like we saw in some other countries, for example, in Afghanistan. So we have largely accomplished our mission. And even those factions that fought against Assad, they changed internally. It's not for nothing that these days many European countries and the United States, they want to establish ties with them. Well, if there are terrorist organizations, then why do you want to go in there? So it means they have changed, haven't they? So it means that largely you have accomplished our mission there.
I mean, Matt, he's pretty much parroting the same lines that a lot of CNN, MSNBC analysts, what they're pitching. The terrorist organizations are no longer terrorist organizations. They reformed. They've become more woke, right? They're not the terrorists that they once were. For Vladimir Putin to repeat that, and this is one of the most disappointing things I've heard this guy say in a long time. It's there's a reason why, and I'm telling you this now. There's a lot of people within Latin America who are now shitting their pants, right? Because they thought that Russia had their back. They thought that China had their back. Now, China really hasn't looked one way or the other in this whole situation. Obviously, the majority of decisions are made. Assad sought refuge. He's in Moscow. The base that was in Syria, the Russian base that was in Syria, has now moved to Libya. I mean, these are things that are very disheartening because I think from right off the jump that a lot of people in Latin America, part of the Latin American solidarity movement, that thought that Vladimir Putin's decisions were based somewhat on an ideological point of view. They never were. It was never about ideology. It was always about geopolitical. Yeah. But geopolitically, if you can just say, hey, we're going to give up Syria and we're going to let the terrorists that are now reformed along with Israel and Turkey go in there and do what they have to do, carve it on up. Now Qatar can maybe get that pipeline going that they wanted to. That's back into play. If Russia could turn their back and sell out Syria like that, they can do that to any country in Latin America. And this is very disappointing. So I don't necessarily believe what Putin has to say, because that right there, what he was saying is shit. That's shite. That's crap right there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I know you can't come out and say, listen, we have to make a deal. Enough is enough of what you're doing in Ukraine. Get out of there, let it go, and we'll let go of Syria. You can't come out and say that, but that's what it seems like it is. So this is just a really hard thing to swallow.
You know, I'm processing this right now, Craig. Wow. The verbiage that he chose in that, I think you're onto something here, because there could have been a little middle ground, play the politics of it, but to go all in and say they've changed, it doesn't make any sense as far as the overall idea that you thought that Putin, you thought that this idea that BRICS, this idea that the world had stood against Netanyahu, had said this greater Israel plan is not okay. They're saying we have to stop this terrorism all over the Middle East. That Putin was on the right side of that, and he understood the Ukraine thing. Like we were aligned there to a point that he had some sort of integrity there as far as stopping the world from this terrorism. How can you say wholeheartedly that Syria, that there's a change in behavior from ISIS and from what's happening there right now. I mean, let's look at it. This is a good transition. I'm glad, because we're going to talk right now about Israel and what they're doing right now in Syria and what's happening with Yemen. Let's start with this. This is Israel's advances in Syria. So why isn't Putin acknowledging this? Israel has seized 454.4, I think it's 0.4 kilometers of Syrian territory, advancing since the fall of Assad regime. This is so you look on this map, this is the captured area of the Syrian territory in 5 full days. They were managed to do this. And like you said, they overthrew Assad in 12 days, taking down Syria. It's insane that this was able to happen. Insane, absolutely insane. And so you look at this, and Adam has been really good on this. Adam, media, Israel continues to invade and occupy more villages in Syria. The international community is silent about it while they condemn Russia, hypocrites. Okay, and so he brings a Russia right there, but that's in the reference to what Russia's doing in Ukraine, talking about that, but no word on this, no word on the occupation that's happening right now. Mind screwing says the Zionist enemy expands its occupation in Syria, controlling. Yeah, this is what we just showed on the other thing. No, but those disgusting parasites are defending themselves. This is Israel's a terrorist state, U.S. terrorism. So this is all happening in real time. And let's not forget, this is the plan. This is the actual plan for greater Israel. Putin has to be aware of this. I mean, he knows this. So how can he sit there and say everything is on the up and up in Syria when it's clearly in this plan? And he knows that this was the plan that Netanyahu has had the whole time. So yeah, I'm trying to process this. I'm really glad Feep had tweeted that out and showed even from her vantage point, being in Moscow and seeing this, like she's been optimistic about this up till now. And like, I get this, like, this is a big moment that we need to realize that there isn't really a good guy in this situation.
So this is something else, because I see my friend Fred. I'm going to give you a call after we have disagreements on this. We're going to have nice conversations. Russia considered Syria to be a drain, untenable long term. If there was an agreement to secure concessions in Ukraine to keep, for example, the Black Sea ports in Crimea, to move to Libya and sacrifice Syria for those gains in Ukraine. Take a look. This is Vanessa Beeley. I think it's important to say, because they're kind of letting it loose right now. Vanessa is out of Syria. She is safe. I can't tell you where she's at. She might have said it, but I'm not going to repeat it. And this is the interview she had with Fiorella.
Why would a president who has been consistent as anything to his causes, to his ideology, to his country for 24 years, suddenly break with his own ideology just like that? Why would an army that's been fighting with nothing, on salaries of $50 and less per month, with equipment that is far lower grade than the terrorists are being provided, with NATO member states supporting them, and Israel and now Ukraine providing them with drone technology in the Northwest, etc. Why would they suddenly put their weapons down unless there is someone masterminding it behind the scenes? And in my opinion, the country that I think is the most likely to be doing that is Russia. And I've been very open about saying this, because if I look now at what Russia is doing and what the statements that are being put out, and I always said from the moment that Trump was elected, we're going to see deals happen. Trump was elected on doing a deal on Ukraine with Russia and ending the war in Ukraine. And it doesn't appear to me to be tenable for them to maintain a military footprint in a country that is now devoid of any defense capability thanks to Israel, and is now effectively occupied by Israel and the United States and Turkey. And Turkey has betrayed Russia, one could say, over the ceasefire agreement in the Northwest. So in my opinion, Russia considered Syria to be a drain. They considered it to be untenable, really, long term. And then particularly if there was an agreement to secure concessions in Ukraine, to keep, for example, the Black Sea ports and Crimea and so on, to move to Libya and to sacrifice Syria for those gains in Ukraine. It's the only thing that makes sense to me based on a lot of the information that I have.
I'm telling you right now, in my Latin American solidarity threads, man, people are freaking out. You know, hopefully I don't get it canceled, but I'm supposed to go to Venezuela next month.
Yeah.
I hope to God I get to go there and speak to them, because that's the country that's got to be shitting their bricks more than anything, right? You know what I'm saying? I know Cuba was transforming their whole government, their whole economic system. What is the position called? I forgot what their position's called. With their person who was like the czar of the economy, their not foreign ministry, but their workforce had talked about it, and they put this in the paper a couple of years ago, that they were going to transform away from that old classic style communism, and where they controlled 79 sectors of the economy, they were going to reduce that to like 26. They didn't say which sectors, but I was assuming they were going to start letting go of restaurants and the hospitality industry and get out of that. But they really were dependent on BRICS coming in, on the Russians and the Chinese coming in to develop those markets, right? Because they are still blockaded. You can't access your bank cards there. You can't go to your ATM. When you go to Cuba, when I go to Cuba, whatever money I bring is the money I bring, right? And in fact, I don't even go to the exchange to exchange monies. I'll go into the black market and the streets because I'll get a better return on my money over there. But if they are no longer going to be a part of that, and they're going to be left out in the cold the way Syria was, they're scared. Another country, as well as Cuba and Venezuela, that are scared, right? Venezuela has all the oil refineries. They've been holding on for quite some time. Whether you like it or not, I haven't been on the ground in Venezuela, but I know that those sanctions, and the difference between Cuba and Venezuela is too different, because in Cuba, there's no bourgeoisie. They're all thrown out. They're gone. The oppositions are still governing in parts of Venezuela, still have investment in Caracas. You know what I'm saying? They're still very much there. And I think that any time that there's got to be a scare from the actual government that's there, that the majority of the people they understand that support the Sandinistas, the Chavistas, they understand that they don't want the Americans coming in and taking their sovereignty. But there's a whole class of people that say enough is enough. Get rid of these guys. We want to do business with the outside world. We need you gone. So they have to be scared. And the third country is Nicaragua, a country I visit a lot. They have already started to work on their canal. They're going to build a canal north of Panama, in which they would control a lot of the means of productions of, of shipping lanes and stuff. And that really does put a big target on their back, because Western, corporations are not going to do that. They want to control the Panama Canal. They want to control what goods and services and products go through there. And if Nicaragua is a threat to that, and Nicaragua no longer has Russian security that they can count on, they have to be scared as well. So this has been a ripple effect throughout the whole world, because a lot of people don't think there's a resistance there anymore, Matt.
Yeah. And you know what? I have to just point out the work you have been doing, Convo Couch, Fiorel, all you guys been on the ground on this in Latin America the whole way. So you have Trump people thinking that this anti-imperialist that's coming into office is going to save the day. They are dead wrong about this. You can see that he's completely a total imperialist. You have, of course, there's nobody's coming to save these people at all. We're going to continue doubling down on every one of these countries and stealing and looting and destroying and creating more refugees and more just chaos around the world. There's nobody stopping any of this. And I almost feel like a fool to think, oh my God, as soon as Trump gets in, he's cutting off the money for Ukraine, and we're going to start moving towards a more peaceful world. It's like, with all the, I told the audience, I told you guys, we didn't want to be doing doom and gloom today, but my God, it is so hard. Well, we don't have anybody fighting for humanity right now in any sort of leadership role. Yeah, people are scared right now. I see the work, but again, let's appreciate the work on the ground from people like Convo's Couch, like you guys doing that work, because nobody else is, and we have to point this shit out, especially right now as we're transitioning into January 20th and beyond. If we even get there.
Yeah. Well, I'm very interested to hear from people like Manila Chan, who had our YouTube channel taken down, right? Rick Sanchez. I'm interested to hear from people like Caleb Maupin, Rachel Blevins, all these people who work for Sputnik and RT, right? I think that they were looking at this situation as a pause, thinking that if Donald Trump came in, he would lift some of the sanctions up over there, or at least we would go back to somewhat of a relationship we had between RT with the Russian government and the United States. I think that a lot of people, and I haven't talked about it with Fiorella enough, they also feel within the independent media apparatus, which, they got to feel abandoned too as well, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, hold on. If Putin's going to play along, if he's just going to turn his back over here, he can turn his back on everything. On the Russian Federation, they can turn their back on everything. I think that this statement to me right here, this proves more than anything what Putin said there that we played, and this actions towards Syria say we can't depend on the Russian government for anything at this point. I think we looked at them as being the more right, more correct, more proper of the two nations, right? Like, they're doing things a little bit better in Russia right now. They're caring for their people, you know what I'm saying, more than what we've seen over here in the United States where it's completely controlled. I think that's gone, right? I think that's gone right now because I don't know. And once again, I don't know if this is a capitulation because of what they're seeing. I know there's a lot of people probably within Russia who are sick and tired of the war that's going on, that if they lost 100,000 people or 150,000 people, even if it's less than the 500,000, 600,000 people that Ukraine has lost, and they're obviously winning the war and gaining ground, people in Russia probably had enough of this and they don't want it anymore. Somebody made a comment in the chat, like, they can't fight endless wars in Russia the way the United States does. So I mean, this is sending shockwaves everywhere. But for me personally, I feel like now I'm completely alone, right?
Yeah.
Coming out of Jimmy, I was looking to maybe try to get a contract with Sputnik or RT. Nothing was offered, but I was doing a lot of work with them and I was consistently on their shows and in their wheelhouse. Now that's gone, and I'm not dependent on it coming back, especially after seeing the way they let Syria fall within like less than 2 weeks. Terrible, disgusting, and scary.
It is. Well, and we have to be like Gerard Butler in 300. We've mentioned that reference before. Just, go down fighting, man, like 300 against the world. However many there are left of us, we're probably less than 300. We should just call it 30 or something and say, Spartan, right? As they take us down, but we're not going down without a fight. So we have to keep fighting. And speaking of fighting, let's get over to Yemen, because this is breaking right now. Yemen striking back. Just be very clear right now. Israel is attacking and occupying 4 neighboring countries right now and still playing victim. And Western media is playing along with that. 4. We're talking about Syria right now. We were talking obviously Palestine this entire way. You have Lebanon and you have Yemen. Let's look at what's happening in Yemen. So Adam tweets this out. This isn't Gaza. This isn't Lebanon. This isn't Syria. This is Yemen's capital, Sana'a. Israel is bombing 4 countries, invading 3 while claiming to be the victim. Western media is worthless for accepting this framing without a question. Here is this is Yemen right now. Okay. And I say right now, I mean in the last few days, but there has been, this is awful. But you're not going to see this on the mainstream media. But let's see how Yemen people, the poorest country in the Middle East, let's see how they fight back to this. They get in the streets. This is bigger than any protest we've seen anywhere really around. This probably is in the top protests on the planet if you count those people. And here's a video. This is insane. Watch the. Okay, this is. I saw this morning. I had to pull this. This is Yemen in the street as the crowd of protesters is getting bombed. Watch this.
From what I understand too, Matt, Yemen hit Israel.
Yeah, so let me play that right now. This is so I wanted to show the crowd getting bombed and they stay put. Meanwhile, this this just happened. Okay, here we go. The Iron Dome has been hit. And again, this is the poorest country in the Middle East, and they're actually doing something. Here it is. There's several shots of this, but this is one of them we pulled. And I do have a tweet here, and then we'll discuss. This is Yemen hits Tel Aviv. They are braver than any other country. And then Truthwire tweets out breaking multiple videos showing Houthi ballistic missiles directly striking Tel Aviv. The Israeli forces admitted their air defenses were unable to stop the Yemen-launched ballistic missile. Wow.
I'm going to retweet that.
Yeah. Get that out
I'm
there.
gonna
This just
retweet
happened,
that.
guys. And if you're watching us right now on the Homeless Left, pause it to go. We're breaking the news to you because you're not going to get this on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. No, they're going to give you the opposite. They're going to tell you that Israel is the victim. Israel is the one that needs to defend itself. And we have to go in even harder on Israel right now because there's those poor people in Tel Aviv right now, those poor people. After all the schools and the hospitals and the infrastructure, the targeting of children, children's heads, children's hearts, no mention, no empathy, no nothing when it comes to that. But oh my God, look what they're doing to the Iron Dome. Yeah, you're damn right they're doing that to the Iron Dome right now. And the Yemen people, as you guys saw earlier, in the street aren't going to scatter when they're bombed in their effing protests, and they're not going to scatter. I have to put this up again, the aerial shot. This is what our streets should look like. They don't. But, we have, sometimes you get great gatherings, awesome gatherings, but nothing like this. This is the heart of people that are all in for humanity. They can live without water. They can live without money. They can live without electricity. They can't live without humanity. And that's why they're in the streets right now at all costs. And they're actually striking back. And that's happening right now. It's kind of remarkable.
One of my favorite guys to watch, and one of my favorite, the people I like the most is Gerald Celente. Like, really, to tell you the truth, for me, thank you. You've been one of my driving forces. You've been my spirit animal, Gerald. It helps that you're Italian too, as well. And we've drinking anisette with our coffee in the morning, a beautiful Brooklyn morning together. Excuse me, not Brooklyn, but Northern New York morning together. Anyways, you know what I'm saying. He's a paisan. I love the guy. He's amazing. I love his work. But, he is very politically correct when he was doing his shows. And in one of his shows, he was saying, look, Donald Trump says he's going to end the crisis in the Middle East. He's going to bring about peace, and that he's very open to it. If that's what he's saying, if he proves him wrong, if he proves us wrong, then he proves us wrong. I don't believe it for 1 second. I believe Donald Trump's way of bringing an end to this is completely capitulation. People are going to have to capitulate, just like in the Abraham's Accord. They're going to have to capitulate to Israel. And I don't think that's on the table anymore, because I don't think the people of Yemen are going to be for that. I don't think the people who are part of a resistance to what's going on are going to be okay with that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things move forward, because right now with Yemen hitting, Tel Aviv, man, that's going to be interesting, because that's, what I'm saying, what are they going to do now? They're going to up the bombing, because there are people in Yemen that thought that Donald Trump would be a better answer than Joe Biden. I don't think they understand American politics as much as we do, and understand that those guys are just figureheads and they're not really calling the shots. But, you can see Donald Trump say these things. You know what, Yemen, one more missile goes through and I'm going to wipe you out. There are a lot of people in Yemen, a lot of people who've been following the situation and understood that Donald Trump's administration is the one who had armed the Saudis to the nines, right? So hard to go after and bomb those people of Yemen that aren't going to be fooled. So this is going to be a very interesting situation moving forward on what happens over there in Yemen. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. And it's really important we keep a historical context, and just keep our eye, like, step back in these moments and look at the full picture. We have moments sometimes where we have to relook at something that we thought was one way, and now we have more context of the present, and we can apply it to the past and then be a little more equipped moving forward in these crazy times. And one thing that comes to mind, and I think we were trying to cover this on a previous show, and we either ran out of time or something a couple weeks ago. But I think that this is so important right now that we look at the plan that we've always had in the Middle East, that Wesley Clark admitted back in 2007. We saw Jeffrey Sachs on Piers Morgan retelling that story in a different way, and we have a new kind of context to it. So you remember, and a lot of you guys are with us on this, you understood that when we created this Iraq BS situation to start this 7-country plan, Wesley Clark told us about that plan from the top down, cutting ahead. Never mentioned Israel. Never mentioned Israel. Just admitted that there was this top-down order that there was going to be these 7 countries. So it's going to be Iraq. It was going to, Iran that's the hardest one, right? Iran, but they got all the others. They did Somalia. They did, Yemen, Libya, Syria. We got all of these. Lebanon. We got all of these. And now this last piece of Iran, which I think this is what the right is just salivating. We got to get Iran. They've been talking about this forever. But Jeffrey Sachs, let's go ahead and do this. Let's play this Jeffrey Sachs moment with Piers Morgan, where he goes well before Bush and Cheney. He's talking about Netanyahu in the 90s, spelling out the 7-country plan. I just want to play a piece of this so we can kind of keep this historical context, that they're saying it out loud. Netanyahu's been talking about this for decades. Let's hear Jeffrey Sachs.
In 1996 with Netanyahu, who wrote a book called Fighting Terrorism. And the thesis of the book is quite straightforward and very dangerous. He says, there's Hamas, there's Hezbollah, they oppose Israel. It's not good for us to fight them directly. That won't work. What we need to do is topple the governments that back them. So what we need is regime change throughout the Middle East. And he actually gave a long list of 7 countries that included Syria, Libya, Iraq, Iran, Somalia, Sudan, and Lebanon. And systematically, the United States has done Netanyahu's bidding for almost 30 years now, going to war with every one of them except for the big one that Netanyahu so much longs for, which is the war directly between the United States and Iran. But the U.S. went to war with Syria in 2011, secretly, of course. This was what's called Operation Timber Sycamore. It was Obama assigning the CIA to overthrow Assad. Overtly, the United States overthrew Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. It's interesting, Piers, to go back to 2002. This is after 9/11, of course, to watch Netanyahu as being the lead cheerleader for the U.S. to overthrow Saddam Hussein. Now we have a treasure trove of documents coming out that this was really a war on Israel's behalf. Everything about the weapons of mass destruction was phony, known to be phony inside the U.S. government, but this was the argument that was given, and Netanyahu was there in Washington telling him it'll be just great if you take out Saddam Hussein. It's going to topple all the rest of the governments. The idea was, incidentally, that Saddam would be toppled and then the U.S. military would go right into Syria right away. But then an insurgency trapped the United States inside Iraq so that the Syrian war was actually delayed 8 years. But what we're watching is this crazy Netanyahu idea of regional war so that Israel can have its greater Israel, as they call it. In other words, everything is to stop the Palestinian cause, and the U.S. keeps being involved in these wars. And there was Jake Sullivan again today explaining, terrorists, who cares about terrorists? We're toppling Assad. And this is again for the Israel lobby, basically.
Okay.
course, Pierce is ready for his pushback, but I give him a little bit of credit letting Jeffrey Sachs talk as long as he did. That's good, I guess. But yeah, Pierce is always ready for his deflections and as well, So, but still, it's nice to get that context now because we never once talked about Israel, but at least from my vantage point, we were so angry about Bush and Cheney and this plan that we knew was fake. We knew they lied about everything back then, and we were just furious at all. The Halliburton and all the money laundering and all the illegal war, the illegal torture program, all this stuff. And we were like, we gotta get them for that. Never once did it cross my mind at the time that this was always the greater Israel plan. And I'm glad that Pierce at least gives Jeffrey Sachs a chance to say that. And a lot of people are seeing that now. So, I mean, that's something, I guess. We can kind of see the full plan, the nefarious plan from the beginning.
Yeah. Man, it's just...
This is a downer, right? This is
it's a downer too, and there's not, and there's there was plenty of people saying that before Jeffrey Sachs said it. And I'm glad he's saying it. So I mean, I'm saying if people are going to listen to him, so be it. But these are things we've been talking about for quite some time. It also makes me think about Russia's role as far as their capitulation to Israel, because Lavrov has pretty much come out and shown that he has a sensitivity towards Israel, right? A lot of people believe that those who went with David Ben-Gurion to set up the state of Israel at the behest of the UN were from parts of Russia. So I think there is this kind of attitude towards Israel where they won't ever, overstep their boundaries when it comes to them. So I just think that's something to consider. It is a downer. It really is at this point right now. I do have a kind of nihilist feeling, black pill feeling about the whole situation. What do we do to move out of this? It's so far gone. And for those of us who've been kind of recognizing and seeing this whole technocratic fourth industrial revolution, this great reset happening, these are just more steps to them being allowed to happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you want to talk about a nation, we talk about the COVID-19 and so many of those people who were part of the medical freedom movement, right, who wanted accountability but are cursing Luigi Mangione, which, whatever the case may be, the only form of accountability some of these companies have had is what allegedly Luigi Mangione did. But these same people who were always against what's going on with the clot shot and everything else, now just seeing Israel run rampant when Israel, fact, Netanyahu treated his countrymen like what do you call that little thing when you mix in little stuff together and crap, like a petri dish, and then sharing that data information. I mean, so much of the data against what in real time when we were talking out against this particular vaccine came from Israel. And now people are just turning their back on it. Yeah, it's just so depressing in a way. It's like, what the hell are we doing right now? And then the mass censorship from those of us on both sides of the aisle. Most of the people in the truth community are political atheists. We are too as well, but we do point out the fact that we come from the left. I mean, the whole point of the homeless left is to understand that we're all in this together. We're all homeless right here. We need to find a way to come together, collectively to at least verbalize and push back on the powers that are calling the shots and call out their bullshit. But we see just more lines of division, more separation, more people, and seeing people like these Ian Miles Chung idiot, right? Who, like the Nick Sorter, Benny Johnson, Tim Cast. These people are not journalists. They're cheerleaders for Donald Trump, for crying out loud. To see them further pat him on the back. This is getting nauseous at this point.
So let's call it out when we can call it out. And I appreciate you have this rawness to your responses to all these people you just mentioned, Craig. I like that you go on Twitter and you call them out. You call out Tim Pool for his fake interview with that idiot, the idiot liberal doesn't know about what happened on January 6th. And the whole thing is just for staging, right? But sometimes, and what you just said to start off, you said we have to figure out a way to be homeless together. So not just homeless left. We have to find the real homeless rights when they get things right. We're not going to get everything 100%. Danny Katz came on the show on Thursday and says, look, nobody's 100%. Everybody's got their little things. But when you get somebody being sincere, and they're coming from from another place. We have to embrace that and those moments that they have sincere moments. I think, and this is, I want to play this. I think Candace Owen, push back on me if you think, but I'm going to play a clip of Candace Owen on Pierce where she calls out this genocide in a very articulate way. I really like what she did here. Let's play a little bit of this, and I want to see your thoughts on Candace, because we're talking about building a real populist movement. We're talking about connecting all the homeless people, but only the authentic ones when they're being authentic. So let's see how this sounds, and I want your take on this. Here we go.
The larger discussion that's happening right now is whether or not having survived a Holocaust gives you the permission to commit a Holocaust. And for whatever reason, people have been, what I would say, milking the Holocaust narrative in the same way that Black Americans were milking the slavery narrative, and essentially saying, like, we lived through this and we survived this. And so now nobody can say that anything we do is wrong. And that's the big issue today, is that we have so many people that will not recognize that it is totally feasible that a Jewish person, and I'm speaking here about Bibi Netanyahu, could do something as horrific as what was done to the Jews throughout World War II or throughout history.
But is that an accurate comparison? I'll tell you why I say that. As we know, I mean, whatever Dan Bilzerian wants people to believe, 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Another 6 million people were murdered by Hitler and the Nazis. The numbers of people being killed in Gaza are, in my view, have gone way beyond what is acceptable as a response to October the 7th. However, you're still talking about, at the moment, a death toll of under 50,000. There's no comparison in the amount of dead people compared to the Holocaust. So do you understand why?
But it is a Holocaust, what's happening.
Well, is it though?
Yes.
So, I think language is really important.
I think language is really important as well, and that's
people
why
say Holocaust, genocide.
I think what's happening is a Holocaust. The burning bodies of the children that I'm seeing every day, and we spoke about this a little bit on my show, but I have recognized that the ability to see this stuff every day has transformed my opinion. Maybe the numbers wouldn't have gotten so high if people had spoken up when it was happening at the very beginning during World War II. And so I want to use my platform to say that I believe that they are intentionally executing a Holocaust. I think Bibi Netanyahu, there's tons of evidence, and obviously the Western media is not reporting on this, but the corruption trials that are going on with Bibi Netanyahu pertaining to October 7th and him editing the transcripts and the prior knowledge that he knew is now becoming extremely pertinent. It is a question as to whether or not he allowed the attacks to take place, essentially to then be able to go in and to commit this Holocaust against the Palestinians. Now, based on everything that I've looked into and stuff that I had not seen before, because the Western media doesn't cover it, Bibi Netanyahu caught off camera speaking about how he had no intention of following the Abraham Accords and how he was going to get around it. He has, I believe, genocidal ambitions, and that's enough. We don't need to dispute, go backward or forward. Do I think Bibi Netanyahu has genocidal ambitions against the Palestinians? The answer is yes.
How authentic is she being on this issue? I mean, obviously, and I see some of the viewers are pointing out she's not very good on the Black community. That's something we can easily push back on her.
She made a false statement there. Well, not necessarily a false.
Go for it. Okay.
I think it was untrue, the statement, right? Like, it's not that Black people that have kind of brought up situations to her. First of all, I think she was kind of pandering a little bit too when she made herself on the scene to say, okay, I'm not going to go along with everything that the Black community or the so-called Black community, the Black liberation community says, because I think they're inaccurate. But I think she overextended herself by kind of ignoring the fact that you have to look at certain things to say, is there still this kind of form of systemic racism that's going on right now taking place, which I do believe there is, right? I believe that it's weaponized a lot, and sometimes it's who they blame. People like Hawk Newsom and the Black Lives Matter community, they're blaming white people for the problem when they got to be blaming the oligarchs and the elites. That's the problem. But you can't explain to me, or if you can explain to me, that there's no systemic racism if you recognize the fact that Black people make up less than 20% of the population, but Black men make up almost 40% of the prison population, right? Yeah. That is something that you have to, I mean, if you want to say that it's because it's just inherently, Black people are more inherently violent and commit more crimes, then at least bring that to the table and bring it there. Candace Owens needs to bring the right people to the table, right? She is very guilty of what Tim Cass is doing with the tweet I make, what a lot of people doing. Like, all of a sudden, coming out of the Libertarian Convention, Liberty Lockdown, Clint Russell and David Smith no longer were really taking my calls or willing to come on my show. They do the same thing that Tim Cass did the other day. They put themselves opposite of just an over-the-top establishment talking leftist person that's not going to give you a real good argument. They hit dead ends when they have arguments or debates with common sense leftists like myself. And there's a lot of things I'd like to set Candace the record straight on with Candace, especially now the way they're kind of talking about the Bolshevik Revolution, right? Whether you like it or not, whatever you want to take from it, whatever points you want to try to point out, when you want to say it was a paid revolution or not, a monarchy was taken out by a bunch of workers within the country, people, everyday average people who had enough. And they came together, and whether it was wrong to go along with Stalin or why Stalin got their attention, they want to take away the crux of the small guy fighting against the big guy to change the systemic situations or the environment that was there.
Okay.
That's something and here's the thing that's also happening now. You have people like Myron Gaines, the Fresh and Fit podcast, who have been peeking out here and there. And I think Myron's been doing some amazing work lately, dipping a little bit more into the politics, staying away from what he normally does, which is take a bunch of girls on this whatever whole kind of culture about, they take, once again, they want to prove a point that women are kind of a different species than men, less than a species of men of sorts. And they take on the dumbest women and the women that they want to have sex with. Not women that are like really can have an argument. They'll never bring Fiorella, Vanessa Beeley, all those people will never go on the shows that they have over there, and they'll make those same arguments, right? They put opposite them the loudest voices, the people who have been given the biggest megaphones by the ruling class, because that's what keeps us divided. Can I show a little quick clip about this when we're talking about right now? We're talking about genocide, and I want to. This once again, this is Tim Cast. This is the Libertarian Convention. Jayme was there with me, right? And I'm going to just put this up right here. Tim's argument, and I put this to another tweet. I put this on a tweet where Tim was going after, once again, he put opposite of him this blue and on young shitlib that's going to just repeat the talking points of the Democratic establishment, in which he can then belittle him and make his position as a conservative, as a cuck for Israel, look right. Tim's argument is that the left is more violent than the right. That's his argument now. However, he supports Donald Trump and the Zionist Israeli regime, which has been one of the most violent governments on the planet. Here is his producer, Elad Ilahu. I think I said it right. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, brother. At the Libertarian Convention, trying to desperately goad Representative Thomas Massie into saying that the murders committed by the IDF in Gaza is not a genocide. Later that night, when I saw Elad at the hotel bar, I said to him that it was a genocide. He got upset and said, no, it's not. And the dude ran away quickly. Take a look.
Congressman Massey, Elad Eliyahu from Timcast News. Thanks for being out here. I want to ask, what is your reaction to the ICC courts bringing war crime charges against Prime Minister Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant?
I don't think the ICC is a legitimate institution, so I would just basically ignore them.
Absolutely. People have been saying that there's a double standard, as they've also brought charges against Hamas leaders. What do you think about that?
I don't care what the ICC says. They are extra constitutional. They don't impinge on our sovereignty. If another country wants to let them impinge on their sovereignty, that's their problem. But I don't even recognize them as an institution.
Have you seen any evidence of war crimes by the Netanyahu government in their war against Hamas?
I think even the term war crime is loaded. It's like hate crime. Killing somebody is killing somebody. It doesn't matter what was going through your head when you did it. And I think we should end the war as soon as possible there in Israel and Gaza. And I think we should end it in Ukraine. We should seek peace everywhere we can.
Many groups are accusing Israel of genocide. Would you agree with that characterization of how Israel has been prosecuting its war?
Genocide is another loaded term that I would not use because it means so many different things to other people. What I can say is, even according to Israel's own reports, 1% of the population, the civilian population of Gaza, has been killed. That's, whether that's a homogenous population or not in terms of ethnicity, because there are Christians there who died as well. It's still killing 1% of a population, and civilian population in any area is, I don't think, an acceptable consequence of a war. I just asked the other day in Congress in a hearing, what did one of the chairmen think was an acceptable amount of casualties, civilian casualties. And he said, yeah, if 2 civilians die for every enemy combatant, it's kind of par for the course here, and that would be okay. And I disagree with that.
So, I mean, this will be my last follow-up here. So you wouldn't agree with the war crimes allegations. You wouldn't agree with the genocide allegations. So I guess how would you characterize how Israel has been affecting this war?
I think I just answered your question. That 1% of the civilian population has been killed.
Which is too much, but not genocide or war crimes.
I just said I don't use those words.
Okay.
Because they're loaded.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't call it a genocide, though. I mean, like even putting words in his mouth of sorts. I mean, come on, dude. Like, hey, this guy's a cuck for Israel. These are why these people get lifted up by the algorithm. These are why these people are so popular, bro. Is because they play along, they go along. And that when I saw that there, and I was really suspicious, I was like, dude, this dude is just going along and stuff. And then all of his thing, why is everybody picking on Israel? You know what I'm saying? And somebody put this other comment up there, by the way, too, as well. Pasta, I love you, but Candace Owens would lap you in a debate. And you, Nick Cruz, Sabby Sabs all together. Well, first of all, Nick Cruz and Sabby Sabs are completely different to me. They have different talking points. We're not swimming in the same waters, right? But that same question, and all I'm doing is saying that maybe she would. She's very well spoken. She can think on her feet. She's very smart, but she doesn't have on common sense or common sense leftists like myself. They don't have it. We're void of those shows. And there's a reason why we're void of those shows is because they can make themselves look better by having an over-the-top, shit-lib, establishment, talking point leftist people. It's time we got involved in debates. You notice that when Max Blumenthal went on Tim Cass, look at the whole fucking panel in the room. They shut up. They didn't even have nothing to say. They had no talking. They have no way of pushing back. And I think that's the last time you'll see a person like that from the common sense left or the anti-imperialist left go on those shows.
Yeah.
Because it disarms their talking points quickly and leaves them speechless.
Okay. So first I'll say this. The video you played, I don't care about these people with their Zionist tendencies to try and set up Thomas Massie. I care about that Thomas Massie, to me, is looking just like AOC right now, like totally incapable of saying the G word. So F him. I'm sorry. F him. What we need is more Candace Owens. Now look, Candace Owens said some stuff. I'm going to go back because I didn't get to reply to that video, but I'm glad you played this one. So I'm going to tie it back to Candace Owens. Someone who has the balls to go on TV and say this is a genocide happening in real time. She has the black thing wrong. This is how you win a debate with Candace Owens. You don't go, I'm going to debate you. You go in, you say we're on the same side, and then during the discussion, you can help her realign her thinking or her verbiage, which I think you did say that it was her posturizing, opening with that statement. And I do think there's something about, hey, I'm black, so it means a lot when I can criticize my own people, and then you have to take me seriously when I criticize Israel. Just like it has a lot of weight when people who are Jewish can criticize Netanyahu and the occupation. It has a lot more weight. So she's doing that. But we talk about Israel playing the superior card at the same time as playing the victim card. That is something the black community has never been able to do. So there is no comparison to the superiority card and the victim card. This group is the only group that's been ever able to do it. It's actually fascinating to me. It's insane the ability to play those two things at the same time. So that's the thing I would set Candace straight on. There actually is no comparison. There's no other group in the history of our planet that's been able to successfully play both of those roles at the same time. No black community, no any community. White supremacists, they don't get to be victims. There's no word for hating on white people. There's a word for hating on Jews. It's called anti-Semitism. They also get to be superiors and so they get to be both. So there's no comparison. So again, I wouldn't go into.
Can I say something about though your comment? Like, see, here's where I disagree with you. Like the fact that he won't say genocide is that. Listen.
Oh, you're back to Thomas Massie. Okay.
Thomas Massie, because well, that was where you opened up your statement too as well, and I don't want to let that go too as well. I don't agree with Thomas Massie. My question to Thomas Massie, the one we put out there, and Jayme was with me that day, was wouldn't you agree that a lot of our involvement in Latin America, our foreign policy, is the blowback? The blowback is the fact that we have so many people migrating to the southern border, right? And he said no. And, once again, but then he tied up. He goes, but listen, I still wouldn't hit these countries with sanctions. I wouldn't fund the CIA to go after their covert wars. So at the end of the day, even though we have a different belief on why, right, he still wouldn't do it. Thomas Massie has pointed out that every member of Congress has an AIPAC member out there, but even though he wouldn't classify it as a genocide, he still thinks it's too much that 1% of the population has been bombed anyways too as well. So I understand the way people say language is important and we should call it a genocide. And I think a genocide clearly states that you're using means to exterminate a whole part of a society, a whole group within society for your own benefit of land grabbing or needs or whatever you want to do. That clearly is a genocide in my mind, right? I still, I take, it's different than what Tim Cass and his producer were trying to do to what Thomas Massie was trying to get out there.
Tim Cass's producer had bad intentions there. You called that as it was, 100% bad intention. But regardless of that, and I'm going to double down on Thomas Massie. Let me do this. He's been 100% right on so many things. When you had that conversation with him, he called out American imperialism in a way we don't really see people do. He called out like he wants to end the endless wars. He does. I fully believe that. I'm not saying he's a bad actor there, and I do think that he has to be careful with his word choices. Here's some advice for Thomas Massie, and I'll give the advice to Candace Owen too, because as great as Candace Owen was at calling this a genocide, she's also missing a piece of the puzzle that you could really nail Piers Morgan on. You can nail. So here's the advice I'd say if they were both listening to me right now. The advice is this: when you get pushed back and you have to admit, okay, only 1% of the population, and okay, 1% compared to 6 million, we'll give you your 6 million. That's a whole nother conversation whether it's 6 million or not. But let's give you your 6 million for World War II. Okay. If you had this is the argument back to the only 1% of the population. If you could go in a time machine back to World War II, back to Nazi Germany to 1940, let's set a time frame as just extend it from October 7th to now. We're heading into 2025. So World War II is underway. 1940, 1941. You have the concentration camps. You have Jews getting killed. If you can go back there and say we are in the middle of a Holocaust, we have to stop this, you would be able to be right about that in advance. You'd be able to say, this is an extermination happening. We're in the middle of it. And whether they're officially dead, whether we have the correct numbers or not, we see the starvation in real time. Yes, they're technically still alive, but they're starving to death. 2.2 million Palestinians are starving to death right now. We are in the middle of a genocide. You couldn't argue that. And so Candace could have pushed back more with that. And then I would say to Thomas Massie, who I understand has to be a little more careful with his words, he could say, we are heading to that. Why doesn't he say that? If he said that, I would be like, cool, say it. But he's stopping on the 1% argument. And that has a connotation like that's the end of the story, as if we're looking back at it. We have to remember, we're not looking back on anything. We are in the real time of a genocide. We are here. This is like time traveling to Nazi Germany, 1940, 41, 42, and saying, you guys, this is happening right now. We have to stop it now.
I think that's an unfair assessment. Look, I'm not going to agree with Thomas Massie on everything, but if you know anything about Thomas Massie, he would have never funded Israel to begin with in the first place. I mean, so he's been consistent. Maybe he could have gone and say, we have to stop this now. The sense of urgency is lacking there, but he even said that's a bridge too far. 1% of your population's gone. I think that's bad. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, I'm just not going to play into what the ICC wants. They're not part of our government. And I'm not going to play into your loaded words because it can mean different things. It's too much. But I mean, from a guy who was consistent to begin with in the first place, who believes that Israel should never have been armed and doesn't pay any attention, doesn't let the AIPAC lobbyists induce his, and really curtail his opinions. I think that, listen, I'm gonna take that as a victory. What Thomas Massie said there personally, just because he wouldn't say the genocide word. And AOC's in a different position, right? She's led with different, with different positions and beliefs before, and not a true non-interventionist like Thomas Massie. I don't think you can really, put on him the fact that Israel is in that position in the first place, because if it was up to Thomas Massie and his ideology, we wouldn't have funded AIPAC, Israel, or the Iron Dome to begin with. So, I mean, he's been consistent on those beliefs across the board. Look, like I said, when I asked him the question about migration to the border, I said, our foreign policy, and he goes, no, I don't agree. I believe it's because people it's the welfare state, right? Like, he's still stuck to that ideology. People are going to come here because of the welfare state. and he wants to eliminate the welfare state as a libertarian. So he plays that role, and that's his beliefs. But at the end of the day, he believes he's not going to sanction those countries, right? Because he believes it hurts us, number one, and it's going to hurt our dollar. Number two, it's going to hurt trade. Number three, he's not going to only do that, but he's not going to fund the CIA to go down and conduct those covert wars to begin with. So I'm going to take that as a compromise, because at the end of the day, we still want to do the same thing. We will not be part of funding these operations that may or may not lead to what we believe leads to that migration process in the first place. So I'm going to take that. Yeah.
Okay. So when Bernie Sanders says these are horrific, he uses the term a humanitarian crisis. You're okay. So you're okay when
Bernie Sanders completely different. Bernie Sanders and AOC are completely different. They are not consistent. They will say certain things at certain time, but when push comes to shove, when it comes to them to repeat that same type of criticisms, they're completely gone.
Okay, no,
I'm just saying
look. Obviously, there's more to criticize with AOC and Bernie for funding the Ukraine war, and Bernie having protesters of Code Pink arrested for protesting the Ukraine war. So you have to get them on when they not just F up, when they deliberately do the wrong thing, you have to get them on that. I'm just be very clear on this particular issue, not their other things they've gotten wrong.
Bernie Sanders and AOC have been consistent as far as, AOC says, once again, did not vote against funding the Iron Dome. She did. Nancy Pelosi talked to her. She changed her vote. Bernie Sanders has been always believing that Israel has the right to exist and fund themselves. Thomas Massey doesn't take either position. He goes, they can have the right to resist. They can have the right to not exist or whatever. We're not a part of it.
We're not a part of it.
So he's taking a completely different position from the get-go for different reasons, right? That don't seem to be about being humane and compassionate. They seem to be like, we don't get involved. That's it. Bottom line.
I want to be clear. So because of Massey's history, and his more consistency against anti-war, more consistency on his messaging, and particularly Israel, when he says humanitarian crisis, or when he says 1%, and doesn't use the G word, we can excuse that more. We can understand that's more honest than when Bernie and AOC do. I just want to be clear. That's
absolutely because once again, he's a non-interventionist from the get-go.
Okay.
AOC and Bernie are not. AOC and Bernie have voted for every single funding to go to Ukraine to kill more Russians. Thomas Massey has not. He's always had the position, we don't get involved.
Okay.
Whether it be from the position of that's because we don't want blowback. We don't have the money to fund this, the debt clock and all this other reasons. It might not come from a point of compassion, but AOC and Bernie will act like they're compassionate about stuff, but then turn around and go fund the machine itself.
Okay. So again, I'm trying to understand this. I'm not, again, it's about, you acknowledge when people get things right. You acknowledge when they get things wrong. It's not about, you never brush someone off completely, and you never elevate somebody completely. You have to hold them accountable for each thing. And we will applaud Thomas Massey. Absolutely. I agree with you on all the stuff he's done right. So let me ask you this one last question on Thomas Massey. And I'm really curious about this, Craig. If he, in that interview, if he were to have said the G word, what consequences would that have for him? How would that hurt our cause? If you can tell me, because I'm trying to understand.
I don't think it would have hurt or helped him either way, Matt. I just believe he's not going to speak in loaded terms. You know what I'm saying? There's genocide means different things to different people, right? So I just think he's consistent on how he feels and on what he says. Listen, he makes decisions I don't like, and I think that are not good. Every single time I see him standing up and supporting Mitch McConnell because they're in the same state, and his idea is we're going to mitigate damage over here. We're going to take the Republican over the Democrat. I think that's kind of being a little bit hypocritical himself. So there are areas in which I do not like, you know what I'm saying? But once again, I think he's just way more consistent than the other people we're talking about. And like I said, he wouldn't say genocide, whereas if I'd say that's a complete genocide. And for those people out there like BB Brown PT who need to hear that language, you know, who needed that virtue signaling of sorts, that's fine. Thomas Massey will not do APED's bidding. He will not give money to any foreign entity. He believes that we should be taking care of our own problems. And if that's a non-compassionate point of view, and that's why he does it, then I'll take it. Like I said, I've always taken the libertarian point of view when it comes to their non-interventionists. That's why it was so confusing to me. Like people like Angela McArdle, people like Clint Russell, Dave Smith would capitulate and go and vote for Donald Trump when he was a Zionist. But even though their flawed candidate, he was flawed in many ways, was an anti-Zionist, like, why wouldn't you back him over there? It's confusing to me because at the end of the day, I'll still take the libertarian ideology. It's why I voted for the libertarian, because they had a fair primary process. And the fact is they believe in the non-aggression, principles. You don't get involved for whatever reasons. If it's about money, if it's about blowback, fine, that's okay. If it's not because you have compassion for what's going on and really want to fight for human rights, but you have other reasons why you still don't want to intervene at the end of the day, I'll take it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
That's my point of view.
And
I gotta get going. I got my mom.
Yeah, we gotta get going. I was gonna cover Justin Trudeau, but you know what?
You want to cover it, and I'll dip out and finish it on up.
Yeah, that's fine. We can certainly do that. I just want to also make sure that people know that we are going to be back together for the top censored news of the year. That's going to be on the 30th. Here's the card on that one. This one will be a week from. Oh, it's coming up. This is going to be a week from this coming Monday. Yes, the last Monday of the year. This is you, me, and Kit Cabello, Hardlens Media, doing the top censored news of the year. We're going out with a bang, guys. So that'll be on all our platforms before the new year, and we'll be coming back next year with some more stuff for you guys on all of our channels. But these are the conversations that are important. We like having this discourse and discussion. We know that the audience can get a little riled up with us, which is great. And so, but we're all about diving into stuff. We keep our brains, our minds open to evolve as we go. But it's about having good intention, and with good intention and good action on our end, we can call out the bad intention and the bad action from others, which I appreciate you've been doing so well, Craig, over all these years. I'm glad working with you and having these discussions, these long discussions that are more than just putting up the headline and moving on. We got to dive into this. There's nuance, there's layers, it requires our critical thinking skill. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And for being part of this discussion today.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for coming on earlier today. And it's our day off, and here we are 3.5 hours into a goddamn show, Matt. Ooh, we got to find a way.
Yeah.
I love you, brother. I got to get out. Thank you, Jayme CheeseSlice. Thank you, everybody who watched today. Thank you for everybody who donated, all that good stuff. We love you. Jayme, if there's any more super chats that come in, can you make sure you get them to Matt to read or read yourself, buddy?
Yep. We got it. Awesome. All right, guys. World War III Watch live today. We just did a back-to-back. We were on Pasta's panel earlier with the Luigi files. We were talking about healthcare system. We had a great panel discussion there, and been doing the World War III stuff. And we couldn't get to any of this on Thursday because we had a 6.5 hour show on Thursday. This is insane. So much content, so much to get through here. We're heading on the last week of the year here. So we'll just end with this last story on World War III Watch. We're asking, is the fall of the Western Empire actually coming? Canada is realizing at this point. They've known their Justin Trudeau has been captured by the WEF. He's working on the behest of the oligarchy of what you would call the globalists, as we call them, the Klaus Schwabs and all that stuff. He's been doing it the whole time. So all of his throughout his regime in Canada, Justin has been working on the behalf of those people and the crowds. Every time Justin goes into crowds, he can't even go to a restaurant without getting heckled. It happens more and more every year, every day. Every day he gets heckled. He can't go out in public. We like seeing this. We like seeing the heckling. I'm not going to play all of them, but this is one of them we thought was fun to see. So this is like every day now with Justin Trudeau when he's in public. Here's what happens.
You fucking scumbag! You're garbage! You're garbage! everybody! Fuck Trudeau! Fuck you! You fucking piece of shit! Fuck you! Fuck Trudeau! Fuck you! Fuck Trudeau!
And as all this is happening, we have resignations occurring all throughout the Canadian Parliament. We have breaking Canada's Deputy Prime Minister resigns following a dispute with Trudeau over Trump's tariffs. So she's gone. We have, this is less than a week ago. Justin scolded Americans because we voted for a second time to not elect first woman president. So yeah, he's getting into our elections and scolding us for not going along with our empire. We debate Trump being part of the deep state or not part of the deep state. But the point is, we didn't fall for the BS of Kamala Harris. Justin was like, "You guys, you were racist and sexist." That's funny because the female finance minister resigns. So as he's trying to say we have to be about women, that's happening. So there's a contradiction there. But look, people are saying that Justin's ready to resign himself. Let's see. Pierre Poilievre, he gave a speech about this in the Parliament. He's asking, let's see, that the Governor General to reconvene and hold a non-confidence vote. So he's asking to hold a non-confidence vote on Justin Trudeau. Let's see that clip here. I got that. So yeah, there's a major fallout happening here. They are pushing him out. Let's see what Pierre says here. Got that clip ready to go.
Today we saw the next episode of the chaotic clown show that is costing Canadians after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government. Justin Trudeau, who egomaniacally holds on to power even though 80% of Canadians want to fire him. And then you have Jagmeet Singh, who, after he duped you all and claimed he'd ripped up his deal with Trudeau, voted 8 times to keep Trudeau in office over the last session of Parliament. This cannot go on. And that is why, in just a few moments, I will be writing the Governor General, asking her to urgently reconvene Parliament and require a non-confidence vote so the Prime Minister can judge whether he stays in power, continuing to ruin our country, or whether we get an axe the tax election to allow Canadians to take back control of their lives and their country.
A non-confidence vote on Justin Trudeau. I don't know if that goes through. I'm not sure that will be enough to get rid of him. It kind of reminds me of our situation here in California with Gavin Newsom, where we literally had to do an election to get a random election. I forget what we called it, but it was just a couple years ago. Didn't work out. We tried to get him out. He was close, but he still remains, and he still has 2 more years to F up our state before they probably are going to replace him with Kamala Harris. That's the word right now. They're going to get her in here and just completely destroy our state if it's not already destroyed. But that was kind of how I think of Canada, is like one big fat California with this very similar person that has this look, this very, just this kind of chill, classy look, kind of the opposite of Joe Biden, right? Because he can finish a sentence, he is articulate, he's got that Hollywood vibe to him, but he's totally captured, he's totally corrupt. Trudeau hits back on this. Trudeau hits back and doubles down and says, "There's no way I'm resigning. There's no way I'm out." So it kind of does have a Gavin Newsom feel to it. Let's see him. I believe this was just yesterday or early this morning. I think it was yesterday. This is him claiming, "There's no way. There's no way I'm out of here. I am sticking it out. I'm going the whole way." Here we go.
Prime Minister, are you going to step down? Are you considering proroguing?
We just had an excellent cabinet meeting that was almost entirely focused on the Canada-U.S. dynamic. We know how important it is for Canadians that we be there to protect not just the Canadian economy, but their jobs, the cost of living challenges they're facing that could get worse. We have a lot of work to do, and that's what we're focused on.
Are you going to prorogue Parliament? Are Are you considering proroguing?
Yeah, so it's very unstable in Canada. And the reason is, again, it's because the people are realizing they've been captured. They're realizing that he spoke against protests. There was the trucker convoy during COVID. That was the first sign. Now, look, a lot of our right-wing populist, podcaster friends, they got that wrong. They said these are communist policies. He's locking down. It's very radical left. Let's be very clear, guys. I know a lot of you guys watch our show. You understand that we're not talking about, they don't hate Justin Trudeau because he's a radical lefty. This is the same bullshit argument we hear against Kamala. And we never really heard it against Hillary because it was more accurate to say they're neocons, neocons. They're not, this is not radical left communism. This is fascism, which comes from corporatism, which is when you are part of the war state. And again, Trudeau, we know, we have the paper trail, we have the video footage, we have Klaus Schwab from the WEF saying, we have people in every government, we control them. And he specifically pointed out Canada, that we have people in the government that we control. So unless you think Klaus Schwab and the WEF are a bunch of communists, a bunch of left-wing Bernie Sanders radicals, then you're not really understanding how inconsistent that argument really is. But again, whatever you want to call it, you can label it whatever you want. Maybe we're just talking semantics here. Maybe it just feels better to call it those things if you want. But we can all agree on one thing. We're seeing the same thing. We're seeing the Canadian people step up and revolt against the fascism that's been going on in that country, at least for the last 4 years. And there is no accountability. There's no acknowledgement that they got all of that wrong. They got the trucker convoy wrong. They got everything wrong when it came to the locking down, silencing of free speech, punishing people who were standing up. They're done with it, and they know that Justin Trudeau doesn't represent them. They know that. And if it's any sign, he doesn't even have good relationships anymore. And this is why we're calling him out, maybe more than a Gavin Newsom, because he might be more near to the end because he can't even pretend to have good friends in high places at all. When we see footage like this of him being completely ignored when he's in a room like this. Check this out. This is interesting. Watch how people completely ignore him here. This is wow.
The flag. Please look in the direction of the photographer in front of the flag. Dear sitting near Prime Minister, please look to the back in the direction of the photographers.
Oh, let's turn that music down so we don't get a copyright. But that was somebody did oh yeah, and that's the F Trudeau hat. Whoever made that's pretty funny. That's the F Trudeau hat. I believe that's a trucker reference because you got the trucker hat, the plaid shirt. That's pretty good. But yeah, he couldn't even get a handshake on either side of him. That's awesome. That's pretty good. So yeah, so let's keep an eye on Canada, what's happening there. They might be even further along than we are as far as recognized. I mean, I say we, I mean like California. I mean, this is what, when we look at California as 100% blue state, again, not radical lefty. We're not there doing any left policies. Everything is right wing. It's anti-labor, homelessness everywhere, 100% pro-war. We forget bodily autonomy. That's out the window. So don't think for a second that we are that the problem is the thing that we don't even live in. So all you guys, please understand this. Please, I beg you. And again, we might be talking semantics, but please stop calling this radical leftyism, please. Because when you talk about communism, you have to go to a country that is communist to then figure out what's going wrong there. And then we can talk about American imperialism. We can talk about that being the thing that every time there's a communist or socialist government that pops up, we go in and destroy it. If communism and socialism is so bad, why don't we let it fall apart on its own? That's a great question. Hard to get an answer to that question. But in the state we're living in here in this country, this is called capitalism. What we're seeing is a failing of the system we're in. So stop blaming it as a failure of a system we're not in. Okay, let's get into that system, have that fail, and then we can have a problem with it. But everything we're seeing, California, Canada, Canada's just a bigger model of what California is, which is a 100% blue state, which has gone 100% against the people, totally captured by corporations, totally captured as Justin Trudeau is totally captured by the WEF, pushing these fascist policies. It's the corporations capturing the government. Corporations capturing the government. That is fascism. That it's corporatism, which is fascism. So why don't we just, how about this? Why don't we just stop altogether with the lefts and the rights and just come together and say it's the people versus the power. People versus the power. We'd be a lot better off if we can all align on that and just throw the semantics out the window and just talk about people versus power. That would benefit all of us if we could all align on that, and put our ideology aside. This is people getting their rights taken away, and the powerful people owning everything and us having nothing, which is the plan. So good luck to Canada. Them getting angry and getting in the streets is good. This is what we need more here. We need more of that happening here. So I'll give Canadians more credit than Californians because they're getting in the street. Gavin Newsom doesn't get heckled like that. He gets little bit here and there. I'll tell you, we see Gavin Newsom getting little here, little there. Nothing like Trudeau gets. So bravo to Canadians for standing up against this BS. They see it. They are aligning. And the people yelling at Trudeau, they have different ideologies themselves. It's not just one group of people yelling at him. It's everyone. And again, that's my point. We need to be more like Canadians. We need to align everybody in the street against the tyrants that pit us against each other and capture our governments, capture everything, and try to run the world like the WEF does. And they brag about it. Justin Trudeau is a person working for the WEF, as Klaus Schwab says. So he's feeling the consequences now. Is it leading us to World War III? We tag this on the end here because these governments falling apart is part of the overall trajectory as they try to move us into a one world order, new world order, whatever you want to call it. As these wars are unfolding, these occupations are getting worse. The toppling of countries are getting worse. The regime of the U.S. and Israel and Western regime is getting worse. We hope that we can have some pushback. We appreciate all of the conversations today. It was a little bit of a downer of a show because we had so many aha moments today, understanding that there really isn't anyone out there fighting against this in power. Anybody in power seems to be captured. I mean, you can't really get into power unless you're captured to some degree. Which is the unfortunate realization we all have to have here. So a real change is going to be an on-the-ground, off-the-grid movement that we're all going to have to do together somehow. But let's keep sharing. Let's keep the conversations going. Let's not get at each other's throats. Let's understand that people without power, we're all on the same side. We're just trying to hold the oligarchy in check, hold people in power in check. And you know what? Hold the damn media in check for their propagating of this shit because they're not doing their job. The media is not doing their job. They are protecting the powerful. That's why channels like us have to exist. That's why Pasta to Go, Homeless Left, and all the other outlets out there that have to do this job for them because their job is against this. So you want to get your media, you want to have honest discussion, keep supporting our channel, Pasta's channel, Truthwire. There's a whole list a mile long. We have Kit Cabello coming on with us. We're going to do the top censored news of the year. Kit Cabello, Hardlands Media. So support all of it. Jayme, am I leaving anyone out? Do you want to come in? Give us the list. Who am I missing? What do we got?
Oh, there's so many people you're missing. There's tons. You got Misty Winston. You got Revolutionary Blackout Network.
Yes.
And then you've got the geopolitics side of things with like the Duran and Garland Nixon, Wilmer Leon. Shoot, there's so many people. Larry Johnson. I can't even remember them all. Oh, Glenn. Then there's the bigger names like Glenn Greenwald and Kim Iverson. Once you get into watching like one form, usually you can figure out who else to watch by watching them, and a whole slew of people.
Yeah.
You've got there's so many people. Oh yeah, Rachel Blevins, and Manila Chan and Fiorella. Yeah, all these people. But yeah, you're not going to find, I mean, it's hard to find them, but once you find one, then it starts to get easier to find everybody else. And then that there, who else to follow. Now, not everybody thinks exactly alike, but we're aligned in being anti-imperialist. And that's the important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I appreciate it. And I've seen some of the comments on here. I don't know if you want to throw any up or whatever. It's all good. But we see it and we understand there's people pushing back even on stuff we've been saying today on the show, which is fine. I love it. I think we should hold each other in check and call out. And like you saw me and Pasta talking very directly to each other and having certain things we disagree with, and then asking very honest questions. What did you mean by that? Or can you please double down on that or clarify? So this is good. We're doing this. I like this a lot. I like doing this. So,
yeah. And I wore my Joker t-shirt today because we were talking about the Mangione thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a lot of things they have in common in terms of like the commentary on society. When you have people aren't going along with what the elite class wants or the ruling class wants. And a lot of those things that are coming out because of the Luigi story are a lot of the common themes that come from like characters like the Joker present when they're doing like the oppositional points of view from what Batman's supposed to represent. So
yeah,
I just thought it was kind of apropos for the moment today.
No, there's something about that, especially the Joaquin Phoenix the first Joker film. There's something there. There's something there. There's a,
like
there's
he said. What did he say? He says, I'm tired of pretending like I don't think this whole thing is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, there's things like that. There are news stories like that out there, like the Hawk Tua story. I do think part of it's funny that these people, it's horrible that somebody would invest all their money in that stupid meme coin and then lose their money. But at the same time, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's like, you should know better than to you're gambling and you gambled everything on it. What were you thinking? But
yeah. Oh, okay. Well, man, this has been an insane year, man. Happy whatever Christmas, holiday, all that stuff to you, man.
Hanukkah,
whatever it is, whatever it is, you do.
I'm a fan of Festivus for the rest of us.
I love it. And I'm a fan of Serenity Now. No, I was thinking when you said that on the show before on Thursday, I was thinking, what was the other catch line from George Costanza's father? Played by Jerry Stiller.
Are you talking about the stuff around Festivus or just other things?
Festivus for the rest of us? That's the Seinfeld. That's
right. That's the Seinfeld holiday.
Yeah. So, but it was the character was the Jerry Stiller character.
Airing of grievances.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So I was thinking, what was the other thing? He had that mantra, and it was Serenity Now. That was a different episode, but something else
might have been.
Yeah. Oh.
But God, that's I haven't really watched that show in 20 years.
It still holds up. You know what I really like? Oh, that just reminds me. Do Dissidents. Come on, man. Do Dissidents.
Do Dissidents. There's so many.
Because so we covered the Jerry Seinfeld Israel bullshit. I'm sorry. He's so horrible. What a horrible person, Jerry Seinfeld, going to these like valedictorian speech, or what do you call it? He's like the speaker at the college, and he's just the guy's trying to tell jokes, and then it's like everything he represents. Doing these propaganda videos in Israel about how to shoot Palestinians, and it's like. Do Dissidents did such a good job of, and this is what I love about those guys. And like we try to emulate this. When you can take somebody like Jerry Seinfeld, call him out on his BS that he's doing right now in real time. At the same time, we can appreciate Seinfeld. I think one of them, I can't remember. I think it was either Russell had said, I don't know about what, like he's kind of like you. I haven't watched it in a while. I don't know. And then Keaton said, "Oh, I still watch it. I can." And he says this, and this is the profound idea here. I can still watch it now and appreciate that it hasn't gotten lost. Like it's kind of still relevant. Like it didn't age poorly, is what he's saying. So I can enjoy a Seinfeld episode right now on the same day that I can play a Jerry Seinfeld propaganda video for Israel and call it out and separate those two things. And I think that's a fascinating skill. We should all look to be able to do better at that with people. But then again, like if the Seinfeld show had not aged well, we would say that it didn't, but it actually has. And I recommend people watch it. If you're looking for an escape 90s comedy, it's one of the few that has actually aged well. Friends, not so much. Has not aged well at all. Awful.
It's aged better than a lot of other stuff, though.
Maybe. But Seinfeld up here as far as relevance today.
I think it helps too with Seinfeld. When I don't think we totally realized it when the show was live, but by the end we figured it out. All the characters on the show are a-holes. They're all jerks. They're not supposed to be people you like and relate to. Even Jerry, they're all a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
And like you realize that by the end of the show or the series, and like everybody knows that now. But
that's why,
and I think that helps. So you're watching a show about a bunch of people who just don't have great values.
So we talk about this in Hollywood about how you can be how smart writer rooms work. Smart writer rooms know the problems with their characters and they're aware of it. And when you know that, when you know your characters that you're rooting for are sociopaths, that means that you can that's how something becomes timeless, because
like Breaking Bad.
No matter what time we live through, the writers know that the characters suck, and so they will always suck. When your writers don't know how bad your characters are and they're saying things at the time that are okay to say and then they're not, and then you have a different reflection on them, you start to go, So Friends has that problem. Friends has a problem where the writers don't know that the characters are doing bad things when they're doing them, and that's why it doesn't age well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
and I think
that's
the
Office. The Office is 100% aware that Michael Scott is bad, so when you can watch him say horrible shit. He doesn't know, so the character doesn't know he's saying horrible shit, but the writers do. That's why it ages well, so we can laugh at it.
One of my favorite shows it's about 15 years ago now, maybe 20. Oh gosh, it's almost 20. Was Drawn Together. Did you ever watch that?
I did.
Man, I loved that cartoon.
Yeah.
But like every character on that was a horrible person in their own ways. I mean, but it's so funny because it's just every kind of stereotype and racist trope, and they confront them head on, and you got like one character's this trope, the other one's this trope, and they just smash them together. And it's just, they're calling it out to each other's faces, and then they're just doing, it was so hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's stuff you're not allowed to laugh at today. That show would never get made today. Well, it wouldn't have gotten made in the last 5 years. It might get made today. I think the pendulum's swinging the other way now.
Let's hope, because I see that all the time. I see the things that would not be allowed to be made today, and it sucks. And it sucks being in Hollywood here, Jayme. It sucks like seeing that we have such a lack of good quality, storytelling. The art of storytelling has kind of been lost. So we kind of have to find it in other ways and completely go off the grid. Independent filmmaking is big right now. We have a few films we're producing right now. We're in the process of putting together. We talk about that on the show. We'll get to that. It's good that we understand that in order to be brave and be authentic in our storytelling, we have to kind of get out of the system, get out of the studio, template, the streaming, the big corporate streaming platforms. Obama pretty much owns Netflix at this point. So it's like anything they greenlight on Netflix is like has a certain, it has to follow a thing, check some boxes. But hopefully people are sick of that, and we can start making this independent stuff.
People are sick. Well, it's not just that they're sick of it; is that Hollywood seeing it hit them in their bank accounts. And now they're saying, okay, they've been telling us they're sick of it, and now it's showing up because we're losing all this money. I guess they really meant it when they said they were sick of it. So now they're pivoting because they got to make money. But the nice thing is, you don't have to be in Hollywood to make good stuff anymore. You can be anywhere.
You can be anywhere.
And a lot of people are going to Vegas. A lot of people are already in Texas. There's there's studios already in Georgia.
New Mexico, there's Georgia. There's we even can go out of the country. Do you know there's some great stuff going on in Serbia? We have an office out there. I don't know if you guys know. So Sasha Nezev comes on our shows a lot. He's a filmmaker, documentary filmmaker and feature filmmaker out in Serbia. We've gone out there, we've scouted it. We knew that it's such a great place to be away from all of the, like, it's very independent out there because they're not in the EU and they have their own, so they have their government's involved in financing films from there, and they're not tied to a particular narrative, or they not part of all the EU bullshit. So it's good. We can, as long as we convince actors to fly out there and do it, we can make some great movies for cheap. And you get these rebates.
So the government helps finance it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. We'll talk more about it in the weeks to come. We have some great plans for 2025. As you guys all know, we've already done our last show for the year as far as Homeless Left. I don't know if you guys have anything else planned, but we are going to be doing one more team up on the 30th. If you guys missed this earlier, it's going to be me, Pasta. We have Kit Cabela. We're going to be doing the top censored news of the year, going out with a bang.
That's a week from now. I thought it was next. I thought
9
it was
days, so it's a week from Monday. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought it was this Monday.
Yeah. No. We got some time, so we're gonna take a little time off. We're gonna sign off for now. We're gonna be uploading the segments throughout the week. So merry everything, merry Festivus, and all this stuff to everyone for the next week, and we'll see you before the end of the year on that. So yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, all the channels. Homeless Left. You guys can go to Homeless Left on Rumble. Get on us if you aren't there right now. And
she's calling us out for all the people we've forgotten.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Oh my God,
that's not even comprehensive at all.
Like, I guess when I started the list, I was just thinking about the people in our general vicinity, but like, this is good. Yeah, let's acknowledge everybody that is fighting something that it's a struggle every day. None of these people are captured. They're all working with honesty and integrity the whole way. This is awesome. Thank you, Anna. Lee Camp, George Galloway, the Grays, of course, the Gray Zone. How can we not? We're talking about Max Blumenthal, Aaron Monte. Come on. Useful Idiots, of course. The Duran. Chris Hedges has been awesome. Caitlin Johnson. We do Caitlin Johnson covers like every 2 or 3 weeks. We're doing something on Caitlin. So it's like, come on. I can't believe. Thank you for putting that there. Richard Wolf, of course. Michael Hudson. And of course, and we elevated Jeffrey Sachs today for his big moment on Pierce Morgan. So all that's very good. Thank you, Anna Ringwald.
Every single person on that list is worth listening to.
Hell yeah.
Or reading their material, whichever way they present it. Yeah, they're all good. Michael Hudson, I think, is underrated. And he's been doing a lot of about a weekly show with Richard Wolf, I think, on Nima's show. Which the name of his show is escaping me right now. But Nima is this guy from Brazil, and he just brings on all the different people talking about geopolitics. And he asks one question, and then they just talk for an hour. It's amazing how he's able to do that. He's just in his show, and he just does an entire show all day. Yeah. It's kind of like how Judge Napolitano does his show as well. He's also interesting to watch too, even though he's got a little bit of a right slant to his a lot of his takes. He still is he's not captured by corporate interest anymore, so he's giving you honest takes, and he's bringing in a lot of people that we tend to agree with more and have those discussions. So he has a very good show. It's called Dialogue Works. Thank you, chat. You guys reminded me. Dialogue Works with Nima.
Yeah.
So awesome. That's a good one if you like foreign policy. I highly recommend it if you want to see a lot of these people.
Well, I think that's about it. We gotta scram right now. I have a little outro, a fun one from this. God, I can't forget her name. You guys will recognize her. She does spoofs all the time. Little funny parody videos on Zionism. It's pretty funny. So this was a fun one, but it's about the worker. It's good. But other than that, do you have anything else to add, Jayme, before we sign off?
No, I don't. I don't know if we're actually going to go do any shows between now and Christmas. So
okay.
We'll just do the Happy Holiday, Merry Christmas thing.
Yeah.
In Hanukkah, which you've already done 3 times now.
We've done it 3 times. They know it.
Hit the point home.
Enjoy your time with your family, friends, and everybody, and get into some arguments, get into some heated debates around the Christmas dinner table. Have it out. No, I'm just kidding. If you don't want to have it out.
Indie News Network. This is why I don't like listing people, because you're always going to forget somebody.
Indie, of course.
It's just there's too many.
Yeah.
Too many to list and name.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you're new to independent media, which I think a lot of people are right now because they're banning corporate media.
Yeah.
Once you find something you like, you will find that there is a lot of people in that similar space that you can start listening to, and you'll gravitate to different personalities more than others.
Yeah.
But I guess, but there's a ton of them, a
Yeah.
lot of different flavors. Just stay away from the Vanguard. That's
And we did stay away from the Vanguard because they're not honest. They're captured. These guys, unless they're complete morons. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. They're not part of us. And also, while you're at it, stay away from the what do they call it? The leftist mafia. Oh my God, those guys are.
I used to watch all of those guys.
Oh
like
my God,
2017, 2018.
And stay away from Sam Sneeder and the Minority
Oh, I could
Report.
never stand
Stay
Sam
away
Sneeder.
from TYT. Stay away. There's a so we got to do the stay away list. We got to do the stay away.
Yeah,
list.
yeah. I mean the corporate media light. We're not corporate media.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just as bad as Rachel Maddow. But we actually asked you to donate on top of it. At least Rachel Maddow cuts to a commercial for Pfizer. Cenk Uygur asked you to send in your donation, please, instead of the commercial.
Help us fight. We're gonna take over the Democratic Party. It's a ghost ship.
Yeah,
they're ready to go. No, it's not. It's never been one.
Yeah.
I mean, I fell for that shtick. I thought they were, but no, they're a big giant bear or a shark, and people trying to go inside, let the bear eat you and change it from the inside. You can't do that.
Can't do that. All right, that's it. We're signing off now. Thanks you guys for everything, being on our channels and being part of the movement, the populist movement, the homeless left, Pasta to Go. We are challenging the institution. We're taking them down one I was going to say one CEO murder at a time.
Oh no, you can't do that. No, that was unacceptable.
I did not mean that.
You mean in Minecraft?
We meant we're taking them down one strongly worded letter at a time. That's what we're doing here.
Right.
Mail it out.
Push them into the lava in Minecraft.
Official. One strongly worded letter at a time. On that note, take care, guys. Power to the people. We're out. We'll see you guys for the Monday, the 30th top censored news of the year. Thanks, Jayme. Thanks, everyone. I'm gonna throw this up and then you can play it out from there, I guess.
All right.
I told you last night how Luigi Mangione is fighting extradition.
Excuse me, are you Iron Blakely?
Yeah?
Yeah, we've been getting calls about you from Zionists and CEOs. I gotta take you in.
No, I didn't do anything.
Put your hands behind
what are you
your back.
talking
Miss,
about?
Put your hands
I
behind
didn't
your back,
do
all right?
anything.
Do not resist, all right?
No, I'm not.
What?
Can you please just give me a second to explain to you how you are being used as a tool of the ruling class?
5 minutes later.
Wow, this dude Karl Marx is really knowledgeable.
I told you, and you'll really enjoy this reading from Noam Chomsky. I'll add to the bag.
Oh, wow, thank you. And when Luigi gets here, I'm going to make sure we break our comrade out, Deny, defend, depose. Deny, defend, depose. Yeah, free Palestine. All right, I'll see you later. Thanks so much. I'm sorry for that miscommunication.
Yeah, no problem.